Ah, good evening, Warband. There we go. Get the mic in here. Still don't have the everything quite sorted out. Still getting new to the YouTube game, but thank you all of you for dropping in when we got Hammerhand and Chronic screaming at the same time. So I appreciate you guys stopping by this neck of the woods. There we go. Get the chat up in the window here so that we can see what's going on. So, yes. Now, we will be having Hermit join us shortly, as well as anyone else we can get in here to talk on the subject, but today we are talking about alternative sources of income and revenue. Now, personally, I have very minimal experience here, so I'll be leaning pretty hard on the gas and doing a full Joe Rogan or Tim Pool. Just prod questions and let the people with experience talk quite a bit. But yes, go short. We are going to talk about remote work and alternative work. Because, let's be honest, a lot of us, we want to get out of the West. We see the writing on the wall, and it's fairly cheap to live overseas. Or even somewhere not nearby a city. However, not exactly easy to find high-paying work. Like, sure, you could pop over to the Philippines or Vietnam, but unless you've got enough saved up to live there for the rest of your life, you're going to need an income of some kind to keep going. And that's something that, well, personally, I'm not super familiar with how to do it, at least not in a way that actually allows one to live a full-on life that way. So I'm hoping to drag in a whole bunch of guests and figure out what they've got experience with. So, send out the call to Hermit right here, and we'll see if we can get this started. Ring-a-ding-ding, baby. Yeah, there we go. Alright, Discord audio should be going through right now. Everyone, let me know if the volume's good, too.
How you doing today, man?
Oh, busy. So...
Yeah, same. Just getting ready for the long week. Starting a new workout program tomorrow, so I got to get up at 5 a.m. to do some fasted morning cardio, go to work, and then it's mainly a calisthenic workout program, so I like to switch from calisthenics and weights, so...
Yeah, and I've got to go on the calisthenics a little bit harder myself. My work's decent enough as a workout, but still not getting everything.
Like work, obviously work is always kind of a workout because you're moving and you're doing stuff, but you actually got to be doing like some sort of resistance training, whether it's calisthenics, weightlifting, something along those lines, even like boxing, mixed martial arts, whatever, some sort of resistance training.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Work's not just moving around. I'm also carrying like a shit ton of weight around too. So there's some resistance training in there.
See, what sucks about being the big guy at my work is they always grab me to pick up heavy shit. Like, I remember there was like a bunch of scrawny dudes trying to pick up like this giant metal bar and they were struggling with it. I just fucking lifted it over my head like nothing, and they just looked at me like I was insane. I'm like, dude, this ain't even that heavy.
Yeah, hoping to get to that point myself, but gotta do a lot more bulking and a lot more lifting first.
Yeah, you just gotta put in the work and make sure you hit them weights hard or calisthenics hard.
All right. Well, we've also got Lazaro in the chat, Lazaro Ace, so I'm going to add him to the call because he's apparently got some experience working with remote stuff.
I know Bandit was on a stream on my old channel. I see him in the chat. I did a similar stream to alternative sources of income, and I believe he joined, so...
All right, well, 1 second. I'll just post my Discord link in the chat. I'm still getting StreamYard set up, guys, so not quite fully YouTube professional, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, it's a start. You know, you learn as you go along. Like, you know a lot more about the technical shit than me. I'm kind of just like using a shitty fucking smartphone to do my videos, so it's a miracle anybody watches, to be honest.
Well, that's the thing. Like, the quality will get people a certain way, but content is what truly matters. I mean,
Yeah,
you had
and you know, me and you, we'll both get better as.
Oh. There you go. Sorry, Hermit, can you hear me? I jumped to the new call. It cut you guys off.
So, who's our guest?
That would be me.
Yeah,
you
this
guys
is.
hear me?
Yep, Lazare, you're coming in loud and clear.
Brilliant. All right, hello. You can call me OK Lord. Lazaro is part of my real name, and believe it or not, I'm an instructor, and I teach students IT and programming, and I help them get into careers. So that's why I know a lot about remote work, since if you do IT or anything related to programming, remote work is pretty much almost guaranteed.
Hell yeah. So it's up to you, Gray. What do you want to get into first? The remote work stuff, the eBay stuff?
Let's hear you talk eBay first, Hermit. And okay, Lord, if you've got anything to add to what Hermit's saying, by all means, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, because we should probably just we should tackle one topic first. We'll do first all eBay, because that's kind of like my specialty in this, and then we can move on to that.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm interested in it, so I would love to hear first too.
Yeah, eBay is a great side hustle, especially for MGTOW, because well, first I learned about it from a MGTOW channel called Keeping It Keith. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him. He's like 30,000 subs, somewhere around there. And he was talking about working for himself in his eBay store, and I'm like, holy shit, that sounds interesting. And then I remembered my dad has an eBay store where he sells mainly comic books and action figures. And then I found a bunch of other channels like Rally Roots, Part-Time Picker, Harry Tornado. There's so many of them on YouTube, and I just binged watched a shit ton of their channels because I'm like, I want to work for myself or use this as a side hustle. And yeah, basically I mainly sold like clothing and shoes. I would sell other stuff too, but my specialty was vintage clothing. So basically what I would do is I would go to thrift stores. I would find vintage clothing. Like, I would basically grab all of the shit that looked like it would be worth something. And then on the eBay app, you can look up what sells and for how much money and how frequently. So I would just fill up my cart with all the stuff that I thought would sell good, looked valuable. And then plus I did my research on these all these other YouTube channels. So I was kind of seeing what they were selling. And then I would just hide in the corner for like 30 minutes, look up everything. The stuff that didn't sell, I would put back, and the stuff that I would find, I would keep and buy. And I would make like probably anywhere between $400 to $500 a week just on eBay. And I would mainly go look for this stuff on the weekend. So I would work my normal job, and then I would do this on the weekends, and then I would list everything on Sunday. And then during the week, I would just be selling mad stuff. And you would be surprised the stuff that you would be able to sell on there. Like, I remember I found this garage sale, and they had a bunch of vintage t-shirts. And I bought these shirts for like $5 a pop. On average, each shirt sold for like 80 to like, I found a vintage Terminator 2 shirt that sold for $185. I got a vintage Prince t-shirt that sold for $400. A bunch of like crazy old movies. Like, people just like get rid of this shit and they don't know what it's worth or what they got.
Have you ever considered trying yard sales, or did you just use thrift stores?
I did thrift stores and I did yard sales.
The same basic pattern with them. Like, you go check out what they've got.
Yeah, the only problem about yard sales is, like, you can do it, but I would do thrift stores first and kind of get used to what to find, because hold on. Hey, shut up. Dog barking. But anyways, I would you should learn what to. Hold on, my fucking dog sees another dog. All right, hold up. Yeah, you should learn from thrift stores first, because when you go to yard sales, if they find out you're an eBay reseller, some of them kind of like try to increase the prices, or like it's kind of like a pain in the ass. So like I would start with thrift stores first, learn what to buy and sell from there, and then when you get experienced, go to garage sales, because like garage sales, like yeah, you can look up stuff on your phone, but you don't want to be too obvious.
Yeah, so it's let's see. So say that you didn't want to look up stuff in the like on the spot. Would you maybe write down a shopping list of top sellers and then bring that into the thrift shop or garage sale and try to compare?
Well, for the thrift store stuff, like honestly, they didn't really care. If anything, like some people would be like, "Oh, I see you got an eBay store," because they seen what I was doing and they thought it was pretty cool. So like most of the people that worked at the thrift stores didn't really care. They're kind of just happy to be selling the inventory. So yeah, I binged watched all these YouTube channels like Rally Roots, Harry Tornado, fucking Part-Time Picker. There's a whole bunch of them. If you just type in eBay reseller and go down the rabbit hole, you'll see a whole bunch. But like I kind of did my research on like what sold good, and I kind of stayed with like vintage clothing, shoes, uh shirts and stuff like that. Like I would sell other things, like whatever I found, but I mainly did the best in like vintage clothing, and you would find like a lot of that stuff in thrift stores.
Well, Ghost sure has actually got a good point right here. Shipping. What was your policy when with shipping? Did you pay or did you make them pay?
I made them pay. Only very rarely would I cover the shipping, and if it was for like an item that was like really cheap to ship, that's when I would pay. But most of the time, they would pay for shipping. And on the eBay app, you know, you type in the information of this item. So, like, say you have a shirt and it's like 8-10 ounces, and you type all that in, and it pulls up the estimated cost for shipping, and then you just include that into the price. So when they buy it, they pay for the shipping too.
So like, so you increase the price, and so you're paying for shipping in the cost, but it's included in the price tag, so you don't take a loss on it.
Yeah, they would once they paid for the item and the shipping. And then you get a printer, and you just like print out the tag and you stick it on, and then you drop it off at the post office.
So, sorry, tad confused there. So, like, because shipping to people in different places is somewhat variable in price, do you include like the variation option where the price changes based on who's ordering from where?
I don't know. It just the app kind of calculates all that for you. And like, all right, if you got items that aren't really too heavy, it's pretty accurate and it covers it all. The only time it's ever like bitten me in the ass is when I bought items that were like really heavy. Like I remember I bought some skis one time, and they were long, awkward, and heavy, and like the shipping kind of fucked me in that. But anytime I like did like your typical stuff, like small items, like I never had a problem. It just always covered it. And we like live in a world where things ship around the world fairly quick, to where it's not really as expensive anymore. Like I've shipped to so many states. I've sold to Hawaii, Alaska, almost everywhere in the United States, to fucking other countries, Australia, and yeah, I've never had to cover the cost unless I already put it in the listing that I would for that item.
All right. So, any particular stories, like something that went really right or something that went really wrong? Any disaster stories, things to avoid?
Well, I would just say, like, make sure you do your research before you get into it. You want to really, because, like, at first you want to get into it, but you don't know what to buy, what to sell. So you just want to make sure you really do your research. That's why I tell everybody, like, Rally Roots is a great channel on YouTube. Binge watch their videos. They mainly do vintage T-shirts and shoes, like I do, and they have stores like they have on their they have multiple stores on eBay. But the one where they sell vintage clothing, they make like fucking $10,000 a month, and they have like a whole warehouse. But they started off like basically like how I did. I took $100. I went into a thrift store. I went around the whole thing and found everything that I could buy, and then once I sold all that, I like probably made like $300-400. I turned $100 into like $300-400, and then you just keep taking that money and you keep reinvesting it. So that's how you scale up.
All right. Well, we've managed to get Bandit in here, so I'm just going to add him to the call. So hopefully we don't drop out again.
All right.
All right. Yeah. Looks like it's just calling him. So wait. So you'd say start with a budget of 100.
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah. Hey, Bandit. So just quick
Bandit,
question.
what's
with
up,
Hermit.
dude? But yeah, Gray, I would say start off with like $100, or like you can even take like go around your house and find stuff that you don't use anymore and put that on sale on eBay. Like
Yeah.
I've seen a few YouTube channels where they did that. They just all their garbage they didn't want. Well, not garbage, but like valuables they didn't want, and they put it on eBay, and then they sold that, and then they took that money and then they reinvested.
Yeah. And for travel purposes too, having less stuff to move around is going to make you a lot more mobile.
Yeah, like the only bad thing about having an eBay store is you need a place to store all these items. Like a lot of guys have like they either use their basement, spare bedroom. For me, I was getting to the point where I was about to start renting a storage space, and then right when I was about to make that move, the coof happened. So
Hey, do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
But yeah, so you need a place to put all these items. I would say that's one downside of it.
All right. So very straightforward. So okay, Lord, do you want to introduce yourself and how you get that stuff set up?
Long story short, I just got really lucky. To make it quick, I was going to college, and when I got out, I did programming and some other stuff, and I decided to take a boot camp. And ironically, that boot camp, which was for IT, landed me in an instructor position with barely any experience. And now I literally teach students how to, one, be an IT professional or do programming. And since I'm the only few professors available in my organization, I'm going to say what organization it is because I'm figured I could be doxxed.
Yeah. Like, be as vague as you need to be.
Unfortunately, I have to because I literally Googled my name and I realized, oh shit. So I'm pretty careful now. But basically, I literally teach in a year 100 to 200 students. And out of those 200, at least, I'll say 1/3 usually get an IT or programming job. And they usually get paid about 60 to 70K a year. Now, of course, that depends on what state. Most states is going to be like maybe Washington, California, and that kind of salary is expected. But some of my students are from Florida. Let's see, Alahoy, the one with the I. It has a lot of potatoes. Illinois, yeah, Illinois. That's a pretty good salary. And here's the more interesting thing: I have some students are planning to leave the country and try to make income from their company, which is pretty much what this whole your today's show is about, right?
Yeah, because a lot of people in this sphere, they'd like to get out of the West or at least get away from the cities. but like the pay grade tends to scale with where you live if you don't have some kind of remote work.
That depends, to be honest.
Hmm.
And there's a few tricks you gotta play, and I know this because of my mother. True Blood, when it was on Yeetus stream, I think it was part 1 of Generation Warfare.
Yeah,
He
Brandon
was
Trueblood.
working for a company that's similar to what my mom worked in, called Magic Ear, which is for a Chinese company to teach kids how to speak fluent English. And that is where the caveat starts. If you say that you are American, you live in America, they pay you way more. But if you say you live in South Africa, because at the time my mom was living there, she got paid a lot less. So you have to like grid the game a little bit. But then you have to be careful about taxes too. Since technically speaking, she's considered expat, she may be in trouble with the IRS due to how things. So it's you got to play a game here. You want to live in a different country completely and put your residence there, or you want to say you live in America though you don't, and you have to pay some taxes or not. I'm not sure how that game works. And then trying to keep that remote job and get paid. In my opinion, what I do, I do live in the States, but sometimes I move out of the country for a little bit. I just have a residence here, pay my taxes, and then just have a good life somewhere else for a while. But eventually I have to return due to work.
Well, I
Hey,
suppose
do you guys hear me?
yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Awesome. So, I work for a Vanguard competitor, basically in finance. So, I'll try to give you best word of advice I would say is find a hobby that you are very passionate about and find a way to monetize that hobby. It could start out small, but any hobby can be monetized at some level. And you can use that to open an e-store or anything to get get you started. Another way of looking at it is there's probably a billion YouTube videos on how to start side jobs and gives you all the websites to go to and how to do it and what the pay is. Some of these places are charging like $30 an hour to sub, transcribe a document or something crazy like that. So there's plenty of stuff out there if you wanted to put your head down and work.
I think a big part of it, at least that I've found, is trying to find something specific because there's so much. It's like being asked to find a specific book in a library.
Yeah, I
That's
think
what I
when
was
it comes
thinking.
down to it, you kind of got to just brainstorm and think outside the box. And that's one great thing about the internet is like there's so many different ways you can make money on the internet if you're just creative. Like I plan on moving to the big island of Hawaii, so I've been brainstorming how can I make money when I'm over there. Well, Hawaii gets 80% of its income from tourism, so I'm like, all right, I can get a tiny house to rent out on Airbnb. I can grow and sell my own food. I was even thinking about doing eBay over there because you can find like all these unique like Hawaiian items that people might want to buy. And then I was even thinking about like growing bananas, turning those bananas into banana chips, and then selling them on either eBay, Amazon, or like a market or something. Like you just gotta like be creative and think outside the box.
And
Well,
thinking out,
yeah,
oh,
go on.
sorry. I was just saying, if you want to think outside the box, the best advice I would say is if you want to narrow down to your passions, because by far you're going to feel so much more appreciative of what you do as your daily job if you care about what you're doing. No one's going to care if you're going to put 8 hours or 15 hours into that side job, but if at least you're passionate about it, that's the only way it's going to be successful because you'll be working your normal job and this side hustle too. So make sure it's something that you enjoy doing because you're going to be spending a lot more time doing that than your normal job.
What would you say to freelance websites like Upwork or WeWork or Fiverr? Like, do you think those are pathways to success or no?
Um, if you are a talented individual that can build their name up, so like say you're on Fiverr, you're great at playing guitar, and you need to write a lick for somebody. If you're a decent guitar player, hell yeah, that's a great way to start. And then you can build your reputation from there. However, if you have no reputation to build on, it's going to be very tough to start off on Fiverr. So you kind of have to build that influence out first before you can start going on Fiverr, before you're going to get the good deals.
I'd like to jump in on that one. Same thing for programmers. If it's your first time after doing a few projects and you have a hang of it, that's a great place to start as well to build up your portfolio. So Fiverr is a great spot. But like he said, I would agree. You should try to do your best to know your stuff first and build up a good rep.
All right, well, say someone was just completely fresh getting into programming. Like maybe they'd messed around with some code in high school or whatnot, so they're capable of doing the work. But like if I go to say freecodecamp.org, like you can learn Python, Java, blockchain, SQL. Like this is hours upon hours of tutorials, and one thing that I've always found is I have no idea which of these are even remotely marketable. How do you narrow down what to spend your time learning a skill in if you don't have an inherently marketable skill for remote work?
That's a good question, and that's a hard one. But I'm gonna just try to simplify it. There's a lot of programs out there, and you have to decide which one you want to do and find out what it does. You ever heard the concept of front end and back end and full stack?
Heard of them. I honestly can't say that I'm deeply familiar with them, so
I can keep it simple. Like think of it like a restaurant. You got the front end, which is like the waiter comes in to get the order, and then the back end is going to be basically chefs. You usually don't never see the chef. That's why we call it the back end as an analogy. And basically, they're making the food, basically calculating, making sure whatever you requested gets delivered, and then the front end delivers. And
So-
whatever's walking is known as the API, meaning the delivering of the message between both.
So if we were to use kind of Google as an example, the front end would be like the interface and UI and layout. The back end would be the algorithm, and then the API would be what connects the two of them.
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it. Basically, think of it like this. Front end is the website, literally the website. The back end is the server that has all the information, including computing. So let's say you ask Google, hey, how many dogs are in America? You put that in the Google search, it goes to the back end. The back end is calculating, is computing, and then it throws it at you. And of course, it throws it at you at a very incredible speed. And you don't realize it, but you just talk to the back end, a server from who knows how far away to your front end, and they deliver. The API, you can think of it like a messenger, goes in and out saying, hey, the front end said, I need this many dogs for this area. What's the answer? Back end delivers, then it delivers it back to the front end, which is known as the user or client, and bingo, you got your answer.
Okay. Well, all right, to kind of use an analogy for the question, so right now we're seeing a lot of demand in the trades because like, it's fairly difficult work. Not a lot of people want to do it, but there's a relatively low barrier to entry if you're strong enough and willing to put in the hours, and it pays fairly well. Is there something similar like that for coding? Say you have no previous bias, no previous preference, you just want to learn something that can get you fairly guaranteed remote work if you're willing to put in the hours for it.
I'll be honest. Based on what I see in my students, it's more like a 50-50. Yeah, I have to be honest there. But
So-
I will say this. If you get a good mentor, because this is the hardest thing about any career that I noticed, especially in IT and programming, if you get the networking, that's like almost a guarantee. End of the day, networking is your guarantee here.
I'm not familiar with that term. Can you go more in depth on it?
Mentors?
Networking. Networking or networking, do you mean?
Networking. Sorry if I
Okay.
mispronounced.
Sorry. I thought it was neck warding or something. 'Cause I've never heard that term before.
Oops. I got a
Okay.
little speech impairment. My bad.
No. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. Well, how would one go about that? Again, like just assuming that you have someone who, like, they've got the drive to do it, and they've got the ability and basic intellect to do it, but they're completely clueless on how to get it all done. Like
How old
where
are
do they
they?
even?
Unfortunately, age is a factor, and it shouldn't be, but unfortunately, it is.
Let's assume. Okay. Well, let's try fresh high school graduate.
Oh,
Like they're
easy. Go to
like
Amazon, Microsoft. They're hiring any young buck, unfortunately, and there's some deep inside knowledge of why I know that.
Okay. All right. So if you're young, you can point at Amazon or Microsoft. Now, do you just apply and say like I don't know what I'm doing? Is there some sort of baseline credentials that they'd want you to have first?
Yes. So this is how the game works. You have to join all of their so-called interim events. Like for example, some are for AWS, Amazon owns that. Basically, it's Amazon Workspace servers. That's the cloud, and it's very big. You just put in Google, and they have like one every freaking, I don't know, every quarter. You just get in there, and you just hope for the best. Learn whatever you can. It's always changing, but I'll give you some tips. JavaScript is a big one. Python is pretty okay, especially if you want to do some, I guess, some databases. Python's mostly used for databases. And if you really want to get something that's like a balance of between both, Java, not JavaScript, they're different, just Java. They're saying there's echoing. Is it me by any chance?
No, it's me. I had two different mic inputs going at the same time. Got to make some slight adjustments here to get the volumes proper.
Got it. But hopefully that answers like a little bit of that question. It's kind of hard because unfortunately the tech industry is going through some tough times right now. But that's mostly because of incompetence, not because of the economy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think TFM said the tech industry is not good right now.
Oh no, it's not, and that's because of idiots on the top that have no fucking clue what programming is, and they push things that make no freaking sense. My company had like an 80% layoff, but yet again, most of them were diversity hires. They're just hiring people that make no sense.
Oh, you'll get that everywhere.
I know.
No idea what I deal with. What I was gonna say is, you have to look at it two different angles. Is the side hustle you're doing a collaborative where you have to think to do something, or is it something like your third party where I'm going to buy an asset, sell it on the market, and go from there? If it requires some kind of skill or knowledge base, your best bet is treat it like I guess like if you're working under a union, you need to find a mentor or someone to learn you the trades and the secrets, build up a portfolio, and then go out in the market and make a side hustle out of it. Now, if you are a third party person where you buy something, sell it on eBay for a higher price, which is called triage, those kind of people find a passion where you have an already built knowledge base of whatever you're dealing with, and then attack the market that way. So say you like collecting Pokemon cards, for example. All right. You know what the cards are worth. You can look it up. You probably have enough cards to sell. Do it.
Oh yeah, Pokemon cards sell for big money on eBay too. I've seen some cards that I used to have back in the day selling for like fucking 600, 1,000, or even more depending on the card. And that's why I think eBay is a great side hustle to get into, because for one, you have all these YouTube channels that you can kind of study. That's what I did. And then I just fucking absorbed all this knowledge from all these videos, and then I just went and fucking got $100 and fucking I literally turned that $100 into like $300 within like a month, and then fucking just kept reinvesting that money. And like, just people are just, they don't know what they have. They're getting rid of all the shit that they think is worthless. Like, I've bought used shoes from thrift stores for like $5-6, sold them for like 50, 60 to like over $100. Like this brand, anytime I found them at the thrift store, it was big money. Hoka 11s, they're like an athletic shoe. They could be fucking beat up, and I would get at least $60 to $100 for them. And then you would find like powerlifting shoes and stuff, and those would sell for big money. And then I remember one time I walked into a thrift store. I bought 3 vintage Camel cigarette shirts for $3 a pop. Sold them that day for like $75. Like, you would be amazed. Like, every time I walked into a thrift store, except for like a few times, I would turn like fucking $100 into like $300-400. Like, sometimes you'll get unlucky and you won't find stuff, but a lot of times I would find some pretty decent stuff to sell.
And one thing that's really key with this whole thing is, as much as society tells you you need to specialize, if you're starting your own business, you got to be a jack of all trades. You got to be good at marketing, good at expansion, good at reinvesting, and all these trades. Now, that might seem overwhelming, but if you treat this like the prepper community, it's the best avenue of attacking this. So, for example, as a prepper, you would learn new skills and trades, and then you can market those trades to do whatever you want. Like you if you know that thing, like you're gonna have your car breaks down, if knowing a little bit of mechanic skill, you can go in and start, flipping batteries around, and then, hey, your neighbor needs a new battery. Oh, I'll charge them $100 to change their battery for them. Like, little stuff like this goes a long way, and it builds your skill base up. So when stuff does go down, you can actually market those skills, because right now, for the last, I don't know, 30 years, as a society, we've been overindulgent. We haven't had a bad times in a very long time. So we're kind of due. And a lot of these avenues for making cash, they're there now, but they're not going to be there when stuff really hits the fan and no one has any money to spend. So things like, you need to fix your car, you need to fix plumbing, electrical work, that kind of stuff. You can learn that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. If your pipes burst, you're going to have to find somebody to fix your pipes. So that's the kind of stuff you really should be looking into, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, actually, a good example. Actually, I did some repairs on vehicle yesterday. Like, the cabin filter needed replacing, and like the filter itself was $25, but you can get them as cheap as $10. But the service would have cost like $70 had I gone into a garage for it, and all it took was a YouTube video, a screwdriver, and a pry bar, and then like maybe 20 minutes of time.
But people are so lazy now that they rather pay you. Okay, the shop's going to cost me 75. You can do it for 50, and it works. I'll give you $50 to do it. So I mean, that opens up a lot of avenues for a lot of people. I mean, if you can give a well done product or service for a cheaper price than anybody else, and they say, hey, you can replace that cabin filter, man. I have a buddy that needs a cabin filter. There, you just marketed yourself, and now you have an extra sale. Now that $50 is now $100. Now you can get a gallon, or you can fill your tank up. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff you got to do. And sometimes it's
would
not
agree.
always about the money. Sometimes getting word of mouth out. Hey, you could charge 100. Well, I'll charge you 75. Give me a good word to other people that you know. That might be worth more than that $75 purchase.
Oh, it goes a long way. My dad has
Mhm.
done flooring for 30 years, and everything's by word of mouth. And he's built 3 businesses out of it. Granted, they failed eventually, but I think it's mostly his
Here's the thing with
incompetence.
with the internet, it is so easy to market. You have all these different social media platforms that you can use to market on, so it's a lot easier than it was like 50 years ago.
And the other thing is, we have the war band. Market your skills out to this. I mean, for example, Hermit is probably going to need a website to market his ventures in. You can do programming. There's a job right there. And you know what? As a third party, I just took Hermit and Ghost and met those two guys together. I'll take a kick out of that. I'll take $25 for making that deal possible. And now we all made money out of the deal. It's really that
Yep.
simple.
I've
No,
been in
I,
those
Yeah, I would say
situations before.
I would say just think of a unique product or service, and then figure out how to market that.
Well, I actually do have something on that first. On that, but first, Brad MC81 has a question on the vintage stuff. So, and I quote, "I have a question with the vintage stuff. Did you have
Okay.
previous knowledge of vintage, or little knowledge but consumers want vintage?"
The
Vintage.
consumers, there's a huge market out there for vintage stuff, and I didn't know anything about this stuff at all. So that's why I binged watch Rally Roots YouTube channel. They live in, they're a couple, they live in Florida. They make multiple six figures a year on eBay, and they mainly sell vintage clothing. So like I binged watched all these channels, and I kind of just absorbed the knowledge of what to look for.
All
Oh,
right,
another
now,
product that I would find that would sell really good was Evil Dead. You guys know the band Evil Dead?
not the band, no.
Well, there's a, or Grateful Dead. Yeah, Grateful
Oh,
Dead.
yeah,
That's what I meant to
Grateful
say.
Dead.
Anytime you would find any of like their shirts, or like I found a pair of Grateful Dead slippers for like $5. I sold them for like over $100. Like there's just fucking money sitting out there, and people like have no clue.
Is actually on that note, is there a specific profit margin that you'd say is worth it, or so long as you're not losing money, is it worth going for?
Depends on what
I
you
would
value your
say,
time.
yeah, I would say just try to find something where like you're making at least like 20 or $30 on. You don't want to like buy something and then you flip it and you've only made a couple bucks. Like, and see, this is the good thing about hitting thrift stores and garage sales. Most of the stuff you get for like a couple bucks, if not like $10, $15, and you would sell it for like a lot of money. Like a lot of these vintage t-shirts and shoes and stuff, I would spend like a couple dollars, maybe like $5, $6, and I would at least make like 50 on the low, all the way to like sometimes even like 100 or more, depending on what I found. So you just like you find it, you look it up in the eBay app, and you're like, would this be worth selling? And see, that's the great thing is you got the eBay app to look up everything, so you don't have to guess. Like, yeah, there was a few times I like bought something I couldn't really find on the app because I wanted to take a chance. But yeah, most of the time you can just look it up on the app, and you're like, all right, these shoes are selling for $60, and they sell pretty regularly. A pair just sold yesterday at like 7 o'clock, so you know that's a good investment.
Now, if you're making something like on Etsy, I would say double your cost. You should always make 200% profit because of how much time you're like. Say you make in this example, say you make I don't know a widget, okay, and the widget's gonna cost you $10 to make, and then you add your time in. You should be at least selling that for $20 at minimum because you should always double what how much money you're putting into something, and that counts as
Yeah, yeah,
your
that's a
electricity, all your costs should
Yeah,
be
that's a
you
good
should double
idea.
it.
If you have skills to make unique products that you can sell online, you make them for cheap and then you sell them for way more money. Like if you have a skill like that, that would be very handy. Like I had a similar idea to when I get over to the big island of Hawaii. I plan on growing all my own food. So I was thinking, well, how could I use this to make money? And like a lot of these foods, like I was thinking I can't really ship online, they'll go bad. But then I was like, found the site on how to make banana chips, and then I found there's like a market for it. So I'm like, well, if I grow a fuck ton of bananas, cut them up, make them into banana chips, they last a while, and then I can possibly sell them on eBay, Amazon, or like maybe the local farmers markets or something. And yeah, you just got to be creative.
And another life lesson that a lot of people don't realize is you don't have to do this alone. A lot of like the Rotary Club, the entrepreneur club, like the Commerce Guild, they normally have monthly meetings, and a lot of these people, you just go in and just be a sponge. Be like, because they'll be able to lead the business owners in the area. They'll know trends. They'll know all this information, and normally they'll tell you it for free. So you can be like, "Hey, we're having a downtime. It's time to not spend so much money." Okay, it's good to know now. Or, "Hey, a lot of the demographics has changed. A new group of people have moved to town, and they seem like they want this kind of food. Now you got an insight that you never had before, and they all you're doing is just soaking up information from these people, just overhearing conversations. So sometimes it's best to, you know, talk to people that have had businesses because they can tell you how, like, it's good times, what to invest in, bad times, you should market more, that kind of stuff. So it's really good to join these, like, clubs, and every community has them. Every community has a Rotary Club or a Commerce Club or organization that run their local communities. So definitely look into something like that if you're looking at, like, even marketing, or because these people, you might be able to reach out. They might know a community event that's going on that you could sell your widget at, or they might know that, hey, you need this, I do this, maybe we can work together and have a deal, and I could sell to you, and I wouldn't even known that if this person didn't talk to this person. So
Yeah. And
definitely be part of these organizations.
another thing I would say is you want to work on multiple sources of income. You don't want to be dependent on one. So like 2 to 3 sources of income. Like when I move over to the island, we get 80% of their income from tourism. So I'm like, how can I market off of this? How can I make money? Well, Airbnb is a huge market over there. So I plan on buying a tiny house to put on Airbnb. So that'll be one source of income. And then another source of income will be eBay, and then growing and selling my own food. And then I'm still kind of brainstorming on a few other things. So I was even thinking about maybe making a YouTube channel and showing everybody what I'm doing on YouTube, and I could potentially even turn that into a source of income.
Well, also, if I were near you, I would start selling it to, like, tourist traps. If I were you, I would start trying to talk to your local communities and see if people are already doing this. So, I mean, this banana chip thing might be great, but there might be 3 banana chip company or people doing the same thing in your community, which you'd have a lot of competition. The big thing is
See,
trying
I
to
was
find a
looking
niche.
into that, and I could be wrong, but I honestly don't think there are. And especially like if I'm putting them on, I looked on eBay and Amazon. Well, I didn't look on Amazon. I looked on eBay, but there were people like doing that on eBay. I'm gonna look into Amazon, but I found this off-grid YouTube channel that the guy was growing like herbs to make teas, and he just like bagged up the teas and stuff in these in special packaging, and
Hmm.
he was just selling it on Amazon, and that's how he was making his living. And
Yep.
like, I wouldn't have thought that you would have been able to do that. So that's kind of how I got the idea where like, yeah, I can grow these bananas. I can fucking make a shit ton of banana chips, and then I can fucking package them where they're all airtight, and I could probably sell them on Amazon. So,
And
and
then,
then I remember when I was on the island, there was this farmer who he grew the food, and then he had a fruit stand outside of his farm, and he had these super hot Hawaiian girls, and people were buying these fucking fruit bowls for like $25 a pop. And honestly, they're probably just buying it because it was hot fucking Hawaiian girls at the stand. They were paying for the novelty experience, but still.
Did you come
well,
with the fruit bowl?
No, my stepmom bought the fruit bowl, and I talked to the girls, but yeah, my stepmom bought the fruit bowl, and then after she bitched about it, and she's like, "This isn't worth $25." I'm like, "Well, why the fuck did you buy it?" And just because she isn't from there, and she was drawn into the experience. So
another thing you could do is you could do self tours, and people, especially on vacation or tourist trips, they like to do something that the locals do. So maybe you might have a thing where $50 and you can bag your own banana chips, and there you got a source of income that way. You can charge for parking. You can do a lot of things. But the one thing that a lot of people don't realize is you got to cut your liabilities. If this becomes where you get a significant amount of money, you're going to have to start paying taxes quarterly. So you got to really have a second bank account and take 20% of what you make and throw it into this account. So when you have to pay your quarterly taxes, because the tax man's going to want his taxes, and you don't screw around with him because he's going to get you either way. And the second thing is you got to look at liability. If this company is going to get big enough where it's actually earning you significant money, you should really look into an accountant and a lawyer to set up an LLC because you need to protect yourself.
Yeah, when I was doing eBay, I wasn't making enough to where I had to pay taxes, but I was making enough to where it was an extra little set of income. But yeah, if you do scale it up to a certain point, you will have to pay taxes. So
I mean, technically, any income over $600, you have to pay taxes on,
oh,
unless it's a
I
gift.
didn't pay no taxes allegedly.
I'm just saying.
Cash. I do it
No,
too.
I'm just saying. If you're gonna do this, you got to do it by the book. So if you're gonna do it as a side hustle, that's fine. But and that's why I recommend people doing stuff online, because if you're doing side hustles through other companies, they'll take the taxes out. It's one less headache you have to worry about. If you're doing it on your own, which is fine, just understand that if it gets big enough, you're going to be on the tax man's radar because he's going to want his cut. So
Yeah, definitely.
don't. What I'm saying, the one thing that most people don't realize is you get on the IRS's bad side. I mean, they charge you interest upon interest daily if you don't give them the right money. So you can be in a tax nightmare, and it could be tax evasion if it's long enough. So I'm not trying to scare people, but do things by the
Yeah, I
book
would
if
say
it
when
gets
you
big
get to
enough.
that point, the best thing to do would probably just be to talk to an accountant.
Yeah, but I'd also talk to a lawyer too, so you can set up an LLC because you need to protect yourself as well. And that was my next point. This becomes significant. We're making like $1,000 or more a month. Definitely start looking into an LLC because you have to protect yourself. And
Yeah.
there's tax
Also,
benefits.
I would like to
My
jump in a
dad,
little bit there. I will 100% agree. He said for one simple reason: even if you make less than 600, be aware that with the new policies coming out, especially with that stupid radar thing, if you make anything over 600, and if your bank reports it, let's say your friend sends you, I don't know, $1,000. Let's say it's legit. They just send you $1,000. The government, known as I like to call it the IRS, can easily see that, and if they want to be assholes, they can literally say, "Oh wait, you didn't pay taxes on that," even though it's not part of your side hustle. So that's why I highly recommend you do get some decent lawyer to explain how you can protect yourself from that shit.
And the other thing
yeah,
is,
definitely.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't worry about it right away because that could kind of scare people away. But if like, scale up, focus on getting good at whatever your craft is, and then if it gets to that point, then worry about it. But I never worried about it. And my dad also has an eBay store, and he made enough money to where he bought a new RV and he bought a fucking new van. And yeah, he didn't pay any taxes or
I
nothing.
know,
So
just
Well, on
things
that note, like,
the new wall.
ideally, for the purposes of this discussion, like the people who are listening to this, ideally would probably want to get to the point where an accountant and a lawyer would be required, because 600 or less a month, that might get you on some places, but you're still going to be living on thin margins no matter how low your expenses are.
Yeah, but the
yeah,
other key thing that I wanted to say real quick is if you're starting in this venture, do not mix personal funds and business funds. If you're going to do this right. Create another bank account at a different bank, and if you got to transfer money, you can at least track it. If you and I'd recommend getting those apps where you can take pictures of like receipts, and then you can use it goes right in your QuickBooks. Get stuff like that to make your life a lot easier, so you can write off expenses.
Do you
That's
have a
why everybody
recommended
does
app? Do you have a
I'm sorry?
recommended app? Do you have a recommended app for that specifically?
There's like hundreds of apps out there where you can just take pictures of receipts and you just say, okay, expense, and then it'll go right to your expense account. I mean, the QuickBooks even makes one, but whatever counting you're going to do, make sure you keep everything in folders. You got to be organized. I cannot stress this enough. If you're not organized, don't even try to do this because it's going to bite you in the long run. You got to be organized. Like, separate your stuff for expenses.
yeah,
Make
you
sure you have
definitely want a separate bank account. When I did eBay, I had a separate bank account, and
correct.
I never mixed that money with my my other money. I always
Yeah.
kept it separate, and you want to keep it that way for sure.
And you can pay yourself, like but you got to pay yourself as an expense. So say it's, you know, it's salary, and I take $1,000 out of that account a month. All right, you can do that. You can pay yourself, but don't use that debit card to buy things that are not business related. You switch it to your personal account
And see,
through
here's
a
another thing.
transfer.
Once you scale to that point, you can use a lot of that stuff as tax write-offs.
Correct. That's why I'm saying $1,000 a month. That's significant money. That's enough. That's enough money to pay a good part of your housing bills. Maybe not your mortgage, but a lot of other bills. So
I really like eBay, and I recommend it to a lot of people because it's easy to get started in. And like once you get going, I was making like anywhere from 300 to 500 a week. And yeah, I was fucking running to the fucking post office so much they like knew who I was. And it's very easy to scale up. The more you put into eBay, the more you're able to scale up on it. Just like anything else, the more you go to the gym, the bigger you get.
but the key thing is, don't if you have to turn jobs because the job is too big, that's okay. Growing too, a lot of people think, I'm going to just scale this up faster and faster and faster. Scaling up when you can't take it is the worst thing you can do. This is not a rabbit race. It's a turtle race. You're going to go make a plan and stick to that plan and grow at a level that you can handle. If the job's too big, the job's too big. It's not worth it because your reputation's on the line. So if you can't do a job, don't, because you're small and you can't handle it, don't be ashamed about that. You have to do what you can handle. And I can't stress that enough, because a lot of people grow to the point where they grow too big, and then it's like a house of cards. Everything falls apart because they grew too fast and they couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I remember I was watching Rally Roots, that eBay seller from Florida, and it got to a point where they had to hire people because they could no longer do it themselves. They were just scaling up too much.
Yep. And then what happens is you hit a dry spell or something, and the whole deck of cards falls down. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
not
very
trying to
true.
scare people. It's just things to look at.
I look at my company, did the exact same thing. They started small, they got some huge grant, and exactly how you said, they just imploded. They took something they couldn't handle.
Yep. It's the devil. I mean, everybody's looking at money signs, but no one's looking at the practical sense. Like, say you're used to doing 1,000, widgets a day or a week, and an order is, 2,000 widgets for just this. You got to think, okay, I'm putting all my stock into this one company. Yeah, if you learn anything, diversify. So if I'm putting all my effort into this one job, what happens if that one job pulls out or cuts the rates, because they know that's all I do is for work for them. That's how Walmart works. Walmart, what they do is they say you're going to be making, 100,000 of the widgets, but that's all we can do. So then they cut the price,
I
and then
remember it was such
that's how they get low rates. That's how they
it
do
was
it.
such a good feeling getting the notifications on my phone. Like all day when I was at work, I'd be getting notifications that all these items were selling, and then I would go home and package all the items. And obviously, you gotta like, you know, put the height and weight and everything in so you can mail it out. And yeah, that would kind of take a bit of time. There's a few times where it was like an hour longer, and then I had to hurry up, drop it off, and then get to the gym. So I could see how definitely like scaling too fast, like where it would be like I wouldn't be able to keep up on packaging all this stuff up in time.
Yep. That's why I say try to monetize your hobbies, because you know your hobby inside and out. You know how to do it. You know what it's worth. It's the easiest way to start a business is monetizing a hobby.
Yeah. Now
Whatever it is.
chat's basically doubled right now. So just to give everyone here a refresher, we're talking about building alternative sources of income and remote work, so that if you want to get out of the West or at least get away from the city, you can still build a business for yourself and survive off the income without necessarily having to work for local wages. Right now we have Bandit OK Lord and Evil Hermit, each talking about their respective specialties. So.
Hell yeah, dude.
The only recommendation I would have is if you can find some niche that's not being serviced in your area and it's a need, that's where I would go.
Yeah.
Talk to your neighbors, talk to everybody. Be open-minded, and put the time in. If you don't expect to make a profit for the first 6 months, that's okay. You're still learning, but you got to have that drive every
Yep,
day.
that's why you don't quit. That's why you don't quit your day job. You stay at your day job, and then you're going to be working on your side hustle after work on the weekend. So it's like you're constantly going to be busy. Because I remember I would work my normal 9 to 5 when I did eBay, and then after work, I would be packaging the stuff up and shipping them out. And then on the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was just going to thrift stores, garage sales, whatever I could find around me. And I was looking for new stuff to buy so I could resell.
Well, actually, about local services, this was something that I found out by, oddly enough, talking to the hairdresser at a salon. And he told me that he needs to ask out of town for sharpeners for his scissors. And so, because there's just no local sharpeners anywhere around.
Yeah, so you would just figure out how to, what tools you would need to sharpen it and invest in them. And then you could take him on as a client.
Precisely. And I've also looked around because I've worked a lot in the trades and construction industry these past couple of years. Like, there's quite an abundance of like kind of older rusted tools that you can get for really cheap or even free. And I'm wondering, and have been for a while, about the practicality of reselling refurbished tools.
I think there's a YouTube channel where a guy just sells reused tools on eBay. So, yeah, there's probably a market for it on eBay. Or, like, if you have a skill, like, for example, I do personal training on the weekends. Now, I have a deal set up to where I help out a little bit on the weekends and they give me a free gym membership. But, like, I could potentially monetize that online somehow.
Well, yeah, there's plenty of online channels that like do workout routines, and then they also sell personal training programs while doing daily or even weekly videos on a particular muscle group or exercise specialty.
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with writing out workout programs too. I write out workout programs all the time. Like I've been like posting them on my last channel for free when I could probably realistically be making a ton of money by doing that.
Yeah, also big raid from Chronic right now, so I got apparently 71 people in the chat.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, once more, we're talking alternative sources of income and revenue with Bandit, OK Lord, and Evil Hermit, each specializing in finance, tech, and eBay selling and basic alternatives, respectfully.
Yeah, it's kind of like another thing, Gray, I was thinking about doing when I get my property on the island. I was kind of thinking about turning like it into a strength camp because I seen a video where this girl, she was living on the island and she was doing Airbnb and she bought a bunch of gym equipment and she was a personal trainer and she kind of like turned her property into a strength camp so people would come from all over the world, stay in her Airbnb, and then she would train them and they would pay money for the personal training too. So it's kind of like double dipping.
Now, if you can get one group of clients with you, then you can get others. It's like if you're selling, let's see what the example, like if you've got kind of like an Airbnb, well, you can also just have a B&B where like they're paying you for the food, not just the roof over their head.
Yep. Well, a lot of Airbnbs will like give you free coffee or free fruit, or like some of them will be like also a beer company, so you get like whatever their beer is that they're making. So it's kind of like an extra thing to sell the Airbnb. Like eventually I plan on growing coffee, so I want to give my people who stay at the Airbnb free coffee. And then, like, obviously, the fruits and vegetables that I'm growing, they can go out and pick it. So then they got a cool, unique experience also. They get free coffee locally grown on the island. And then they can go out into my food forest, and then they can pick fresh bananas and papayas and avocados and stuff. So it's kind of a cool experience for them.
Now, actually, seeing a thing in the chat regarding social media use for building your network and marketing yourself. Now, where I am locally, Facebook seems to be the social media platform of choice, but has anyone found where that works, doesn't work, or whether something alternative is better specialized for a specific field?
I think Instagram is better. From what I've been seeing, a lot of people, they use Instagram for marketing.
Wait, isn't Instagram owned by Facebook? Yeah, so it's the same ad agency probably.
Probably.
Hmm.
I think all
Nice.
the eyes are on Instagram more than Facebook, though.
Definitely, even my company, and they're not very tech savvy.
I've seen similar around here.
Craigslist is pretty good. I used to use that a lot. They're not that bad either, but it's not like a good ad place. If anything, it's just the poster stuff.
I would use Facebook Marketplace to find unique items to sell on eBay, so...
All right, Bandit, you've mentioned widgets quite a bit, right? Or is that okay, Lord? Like you're both are green icons.
That
and
was
here's
Bandit.
Bandit. Yeah, so Bandit, could you maybe go into like a bit more in depth about widgets? Because personally, I'm not really familiar with like what a widget would be as something that you'd sell as a product.
You still there, Bandit?
Well, he's muted right now, so
I think he might have just been using that as like an example. I don't think he actually meant like widgets. I think he was just using widgets as an example, but I could be wrong.
all right. Well, okay, Lord. What about like selling tech products, like specific coding things versus selling services? What have you found in that field? What works? What doesn't? What's profitable? What's not?
So what's in high demand that I'm noticing is the front end sector. So in other words, making websites, e-commerce, etc., things like that. So basically, what you guys been talking about is kind of perfect for me because I'm the kind of person that actually helps build websites so they can do e-commerce. Granted, all I do is just copy paste my code, but either way, that's pretty much what people need nowadays. I understand the argument where people's like, "Oh, it's Squarespace, that does it for you." No, they don't. All those templates, there's pros and cons to them. So for a long time, people misunderstood that the front end development is still rising. Those websites do not provide everything you need, especially when it comes to e-coms.
Well, when someone's starting out, then like, say they want to start out in e-commerce, would you recommend that they use something like Squarespace or Shopify or something to get started and then go for a front end, or would you recommend that they invest in a website right off the bat?
If it's a solo or a small group, then yeah, I think that's perfectly fine. You know, test the water. Never go put 2 feet in the river. So I say, yeah, that's more than acceptable. Though once you actually get something, you want to invest in that. Because the issue is you can't grow on Squarespace if all of a sudden you get 1,000 or 2,000 hits. You're going to have to like use whatever very, very specific template they give you, and then modifying is a bitch. I've experienced modifying that stuff where I was like, why can't I just install my section of code here so I can have it communicate to my my database? And it's just a disaster. So you have to say the pros and cons. You want to start, Sure, but understand that you won't be as flexible if all of a sudden you get a boom, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what? Like, could you give some kind of a ballpark recommendation? Like, if you hit X metric, then start contacting a front end developer.
Let's see. Man, to make it generic, because it depends on what your product is, like how much customer service you need, or exactly what product. But let's say it's just a simple product, lightweight, that I'm learned from Hermit. You know, the heavier it is, the more difficult it is to ship it. Let's say t-shirts. Once you start realizing that you can't contact your customers very well, and you start realizing that there is no proper automated system that you can use, like you start feeling like this is becoming more of a headache, that is when you want to start contacting a front-end developer and a back-end developer, both, or full stack, and you would try to automate it. End of the day, if you're just a solo party or a small group, automation is going to be your number one goal to get bigger, quicker, and a lot of people are not using that. You'd be surprised how many small tasks that you do can easily be automated.
Yeah, because a lot of that, like, if you a secretary is expensive to begin with, so, and then you have to train them up and get them specialized, whereas it's that much easier just to have a code designed for you by a professional that can do the work far more efficiently than a human ever could.
Exactly.
What do you
And I
guys think about?
also, sorry, go ahead.
What do you guys think about drop shipping? That always kind of seemed like a scam to me.
Wait, what's that? Drop shipping? You mean from Amazon or something else?
Just like, isn't drop shipping when you like find a product online and then you fucking you kind of like put it for sale, but you don't really like, but I don't know the whole process, but yeah, you kind of like you'll have the product listed, they buy it off you, but then it like I think goes to another company or some shit. I don't fucking know. I hear people talking about it. It seemed like a scam to me.
If there's no protection, I say it is a scam.
Sorry, guys, I had to step
I
out.
just didn't know if you guys knew anything about it.
About what? I'm sorry, I had to step out.
Drop
I just
shipping.
wasn't sure if yeah, drop shipping. It seemed like a scam to me. I just wanted to see what you guys thought about it.
I don't like a service where people just drop inventory at my house and use my house as basically a storage locker, because if you're stuck with the inventory, it might be hard to get rid of and you might have to eat that cost. To me it's way too much risk, but that's the way I look
Yeah,
at
like
it.
I see a lot of people promoting it online and always kind of just stayed away from it because I was like, yeah, that seems a little scammy. I don't really want to get involved in that. So yeah, guys in the chat or listeners, I would say stay away from drop shipping.
Worst
By
case
the way,
scenario, they give you something you should not have in your house. And
yeah,
I don't know, someone's tracking it. Just saying.
yep. And I did hear one thing. When I mean widgets, it's just a generic for whatever you're making. Widgets is just a generic like term for any product that you're selling.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I'm used to widgets in like the UI sense.
Oh,
So,
no.
yeah.
No, this is widgets as in like you're making a product and we're just calling it widgets
Okay.
kind of thing.
Now, Ayrton146, does anyone know how I can make my own website? Any how-to videos? Personally, I've seen stuff, freecodecamp.org. Not sure how effective that would be. But, okay, Lord, do you have any recommendations in that area? Somewhere to point people in the direction of learning?
Yes, I got too many. That's the issue with programming. There's so much resource out there. How do you even get started? So if you want, I would recommend looking at bigger YouTubers that actually do a decent job. If you want to do the free route, Bosch, like Mosh, he's really good for programming and helps you with the front end stuff. Does some free stuff right there. Professor Messer's another one for the IT. I highly recommend if you're going to do programming, please know some IT stuff. I know a professor that is a master programmer, but she can't even turn on the computer correctly. You'd be surprised how many programmers I know don't even know how to operate a computer correctly. And I know that seems weird, but trust me, it's a real thing.
So
And you
learn-
also get paid more.
So learn the hardware as well as the software. What
Yeah,
about
please.
What about places like Udemy where you've got paid courses? What are your
I
opinions
also
on that?
recommend that. I have a whole bunch actually. Cold Steel is very good. He has a boot camp for that. Always wait for sales, by the way, on Udemy. There's always a sale going on. Wait for them. Trust me.
I
Don't pay $100. Pay like $10.
actually, on that note, I found that if you get the Honey installer for your browser, you can actually track a whole bunch of Udemy codes and get big discounts, even if there's not an active sale that you can see.
Ooh, I should try that. But I would recommend stuff like that. First, try free. Because here's the thing about programming. If you found out you don't like it and you're stuck in it, you have no idea how miserable you're going to be. You really do need to like it. It's not like most jobs that you can just do it mindlessly. Programming involves actual critical thinking unless you're copy pasting. And unfortunately, if you're starting off, you're going to have to do a lot of critical thinking. You can't be copy pasting yet. And I know the joke in the industry, but it's true. You just copy paste from a library, you modify it, and then that's how you get your website up and running. Now, as for assets, that's a different story. I know how to make a website, but don't ask me how to make art or assets. That I don't know how to do any of that. I know how to put it in, but don't ask me to make it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just got a quick question for you, for IT wise. Doing the buying and selling and like that infrastructure, is that hard to do? Like to set up the inventory?
Oh, not
and
anymore. No,
Okay.
it's super easy with AWS, Azure, which is Microsoft, and then GCP, which will be Google. Though I would recommend if you want to save money, go Amazon, which is AWS. You
Okay.
can do it yourself if you want to spend a few months learning on it, or you can pay someone to do that. Find someone Fiverr, and they can set up it's called platform as a service. So it's just automated. It does it on its own, and it's way better than Squarespace, where you don't have to be worried about any limitations all of a sudden. It's
Okay.
scalable.
Good. That was my next question, if it was scalable.
Yeah, you always want
Actually,
scalable from e-coms. Always.
100%.
question in the chat: W3S any good? Not familiar with that term myself.
AWS? Yeah, that's Amazon.
W3S.
W3S. That sounds familiar. Let me Google that. Let me see here. WCS?
3S.
3S.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm not sure what that is. Is that like a website?
I've got no clue. Cool Chickens just asked W3S any good. So I was wondering if anyone else was familiar with the term.
Oh, I think I know. He's talking about 3W schools. Is that it? 3W schools, chicken?
Could be. We'll see if he. Let's assume it is, and maybe dive into that a bit.
It's okay. I do have problems with that website. Sometimes the information is incorrect, but that's better than most out there. So yeah, I do recommend W3 schools. Do not get the certification. I literally teach students to get the certification, and it's tissue paper. It's nice to have, but why spend $100 on that when you can just buy a whole bunch of Udemy courses that give you some structure? If that's what he's referring to.
Another thing I was going to say is, if you really want to dive deep into what you want to do, I would honestly recommend you write a business plan and go on the website, go to any website to how to write a business plan, and that will answer almost every single question you need to know about the area of business that you want to do, about marketing, advertising, costs, all of it, slogans, everything. And that document alone should answer every question you will need to know to start your own business. So I definitely would recommend looking into a business plan. Don't look at it as a chore. Look at it as questions that a normal person would ask you if you're running your own business. And it's good for if you want to get a loan from the bank, which I don't recommend doing. But if you get scalable to the point where you need loans, you're going to have to write a business plan anyways. So it's a good skill to have.
Sounds like a good way to even just test the viability of an idea before you put any money down.
100%. But most business plans are like, I'm not going to lie, they could be 100 pages. hands down. If you want to answer everything, but if you go over the bullet points of a business plan, you have to be able to answer all those questions. Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing. And it's good that you don't know. Sometimes you got to go in, you got to ask questions or do some research, which is a good thing.
Well, better to put together a business plan that's 100 pages, even if it doesn't work out, than drop like $1,000+ on something
Oh,
that
100%.
just disappears.
Yes.
Greg, you still thinking about doing eBay as a side hustle?
Yeah, like I'm starting to get enough income together where I can actually do the investments, and I do have a stockpile of stuff in a storage unit to use as kind of some startup costs.
Dope. And remember, dude, if you got any questions or anything, just ask me, because I got a lot of experience with this. But yeah, I would definitely recommend doing your research. I would check out the channel Rally Roots, Harry Tornado, Part Time Picker. Those were like the 3 best YouTube channels that I could find that talk about eBay, but there's a ton of other ones too.
And then,
Sorry to jump in. I just want to clarify something on chat. The CompTIA A plus is worth it. Maybe not doing the test and spending almost $1,000, but actually doing the curriculum is really good, because you'd be surprised how many people don't know the basic components of a PC and the technology behind it. So I wouldn't say the CompTIA A plus is bad, but it's something to consider. I'm just saying. If you don't want to spend the money, understandable, but at least learn what's on the syllabus.
Now, Cool Chick,
jump in.
Sorry, actually, comment from Cool Chickens here. I've been coding off and on for about 10 years. Just don't know how to break into the industry. Thank you for telling me the cert is worthless. Could you maybe give him some tips for how to get in there?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt everyone's conversation. But for Chicken, to make it very quick, just do it. I'm being honest. Just do it. And I don't mean this in a mean way. I mean it like, for example, whatever you're coding, you have to get rid of that imposter syndrome. That's the biggest issue I see with a lot of old programmers or programmers that go in and out. If you've been doing it for 10 years, you know enough. So apply to any job that you want in the sector that you program and just do it. I also recommend learning how to fight the ATS system, automated ticket system. That's what most human resource uses. 90 to 95% of resumes go to the bin because of an automated robot. And a lot of these ATS systems are horribly designed. So you got to learn how to beat that system in order to even get a start. And that's how you have to go from there. Start applying to literally any job you see on LinkedIn. What's another? Indeed. Just apply. Find any friends that you know that also need that kind of like side hustle, if they need a website or maybe a database or whatever your program. And there's my little TED talk there. I can say a lot more, but I'll be here forever. It's too much. You just got to do it. That's the best thing I can say.
Yeah, actually, what I've heard specifically with Indeed is that if you're ever asked a question like, do you qualify, do you have XYZ, you must answer yes to everything or your resume is going in the bin.
And trust me when I say this, all these guys, I don't want to curse, sorry. I know. A lot of these human resource people don't know anything about programming, and they're the ones sometimes doing the interview. I will never forget this time I had an interview where the person was so incorrect. I literally told the person, can I talk to a real programmer? This is not going anywhere. Obviously, I didn't get the job, but I can't stand being interviewed, and they don't even know what the heck they're talking about. Like,
Well, yeah,
for
let's
example,
face it, if it's
I give you one horrible example. I had a student who literally told me, they asked me if I know how to fix light bulbs, LED specifically, and cameras. And I literally said, what's the title position? Front end developer, junior. And I'm just there puzzled. It's like, you're going to find ridiculous things when you're looking for a programming job. Just say you know the shit and then talk to the real programmer. Because a lot of these human resource people literally put a bucket list that's like a unicorn, as we call it in the industry. There ain't no fucking unicorn. Just get the hiring manager or the person who actually knows programming and literally tell them, hey, what do you need? This is what I can do. Because it's impossible for any programmer to know everything. I don't know everything. Impossible. I only know C++, Python, JavaScript, and that's about it. Oh, and some Python. That's it. I don't know everything else. God forbid I have to do basic C. God forbid.
Oh,
Well,
actually,
there's a
so Hermit, you go, and then
there's a
we've got a
good
comment.
there's a good chance if you're talking to HR, you're talking to a diversity hire that has no idea what they're talking about. So yeah, that's why that sucks.
God damn
Uh,
diversity hires. That ruined my company.
What's the you got to shove? And that's the problem.
Non-binary hobgoblin.
Oh yeah, and they shove them in HR because that's the only place where they won't do too much damage, and then they fuck over with all future hires. And this is how you get like communists taking over countries because you put commies in front of the hiring process.
Yeah,
That's
Aaron
why
Clary did a
HR is
great
all
thing
women
on this.
too.
Oh, my
Because
company's like 90% women.
well, Aaron Clary did a great thing about this, saying basically diversity hires go into two positions, HR and marketing, because that's where they do the least amount of damage. Sadly, that's the truth.
Wait, what?
Yeah, because
Least amount of damage.
these companies are forced to hire them, so they just basically put them where they can do the least amount of damage, so that way they don't really got to deal with it, and they can't hurt the business too much.
Well,
Correct.
the least amount of immediate visible damage, but we can see
Yes,
the
but
long term effects.
yeah, but you're not a
Definitely.
frontline worker. You're not a worker that making losing clients or gaining clients. You're marketing. That's why marketing is the way it is now, because it's all run by SJW stuff. So that's why things are the way they are, because marketing, you do any business that's not doing well, the first department to go is normally marketing.
Oh god,
And that's
actually,
why you get things like the gay
Oh, that makes
Doritos
sense.
commercial. You
Because
guys
I can
remember
cut
the gay
marketing.
Dorito commercial?
Yeah, if you're a frontline worker, like you say you're in production, you're building stuff, I can't get rid of that worker. That worker's making me money. Marketing is not making money. Marketing is actually costing me money because I have to pay for an advertising deal. I have to pay for their salary. Literally, advertising is just a giant expense. I
yeah.
mean,
Huh. You
Well,
I'm
answer
not
a
going to
lot
put
of
them in
my
the sales team
past
because
questions.
it would cost that company money. That's why they throw them in marketing and HR.
Yeah, that explains my company because I was wondering why did I get laid off or most of my coworkers or instructors? And that answers my question. We making the money. They ain't.
Correct.
So couple comments here. So Ayrton146. In my opinion, coding is like art. Your past work is your portfolio. Is this a wrong idea of the industry?
No, it's accurate, except I don't see it as art, but if that analogy does work. I see it more of like structure. I'm more of like the back end type of person. In other words, into details. Like I like organized line of code. How does it work abstractly? But there are individuals like more front end, as I call them, that like seeing it actually interact. You see the artwork move around. So it's pretty much the same paradigm. Yes, I would agree.
Okay, and Silas Larson. I'm reminded of Filipina P's video on the Filipino crab mentality. An ideal business might be one that the locals cannot comprehend, cannot see, especially in Philippines provinces. What's your guys' experience with that?
I was going to actually talk about this. There's a great thing that I would honestly recommend everybody look into if you're going to look at decision making skills and what to do. It's called SWOT analysis, SWOT, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Basically, you make a giant checkerboard in each corner and you list the pros and cons based off strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And that's how finance is basically decision making is ever done, is between that and cost benefit or cash flows. Those are basically the three ways of decision making in a business. So if you understand SWOT analysis, you basically understand all business decision making. And I really would recommend you guys looking into that, because that will answer that question and any other future questions that you have, is understanding your company's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah, I've heard about that in a couple business courses I've taken.
It's
And
very important.
yeah, no, from what I'm getting, a lot of the difference between a successful business and a failed business is less about the idea and more so your understanding of the idea.
Well, it's that and it's poor planning. So the other thing that I would say is understand the feedback loop, which is you formulate a plan, you execute a plan, you feedback that plan, and then you make adjustments to that plan, which makes you make a new plan. It's a never ending process, but that's how you decide your short term, long term, or medium term and long term goals. So if you say you want to be, your goal is to make $1,000 a month. Okay. How do I get there? Okay. We'll come up with some strategies. I got to market, I got to make a portfolio, and I have to sell my idea out so I can get some jobs. Okay, now I'm making $500. It took me 6 months. I want to get that done in 3 months. So I'm behind schedule. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And you got to use that feedback loop to, okay, maybe it's a rough time right now. It's hard, or maybe I don't have the experience. Maybe I have to mentor under somebody to get the experience so I can get myself out there. So, yeah, feedback loop is very important to understanding your goals and meeting your current goals and adjusting your goals.
Well, on the
So
subject of mentorship, is there some kind of strategy that you can recommend, something reliable, or do you have to just kind of figure it
it all
out as you
depends.
go?
It all depends on what you want to accomplish and in what field you're in. Every field is different. So generally speaking, okay, if you're making something, or if you're making something, or there's an art, or there's a particular set of skill that's required to do that job, where I'm not just, you know, it's not labor intensive. I'm just doing a skill. You need to create a portfolio of what your abilities are and your artwork, or whatever the case may be, and marketed that out. Now, if it's a learned trade or skill, you need a mentor for that. So you need
I would
that's
even say you could find mentors online too, because most of my mentors are just people that I watched online and I basically learned as much as I can, whether it was health and fitness or eBay or fucking whatever. I learned most of it online, and those guys were kind of like mentors in a way. What do you guys
but,
think on that?
but
I
that's what I was
agree.
saying
That's
with
how people ask me questions all the time on LinkedIn. Uh, just go to YouTube, message some of the creators. I always find that the smaller channels tend to give you feedback quicker, and you can ask them. Never judge a
Yep,
book by
like
its cover. You'd be surprised.
that's why
I
I said
learned
the whole thing.
everything. I learned almost everything I know on health and fitness on fucking YouTube. I learned how to start an eBay store on YouTube. I fucking learned how to grow marijuana on YouTube. Like, you can pretty much learn anything on YouTube, a skill or an idea or whatever.
But that's what I was saying before with actionable intel. And you want to figure out what the industries are like. Join the Rotary Club. Join the the, the American Legion. Those kind of organizations that have business leaders in the community are running that, so you can run these ideas past them. And that's how you can get free mentorship right there. Is joining business organizations that are free, that your community has, and you'll know the local community. So, like, I mean, if you're selling stuff on eBay, that's a different story. But if you're selling a local product, best way of getting advice from the local is, being friends with the locals, and they'll give you the intel for free. No, you don't even have to pay them. All you have to do is listen to them and ask them questions.
Yeah, when I grow my own food, I'm going to have to talk to a lot of people at the farmers markets and try to get into there. So,
I would recommend there's a YouTube guy named Michigan Gardener, and he runs his own farm, and he goes step by step on how to sell and market farm items. He's been doing it for like 3 years. I definitely would recommend
what is
watching
he called? The Michigan farmer?
Mi Gardner.
Oh, Michigan Gardener. All right, I'll definitely check that out because I definitely want that to be one of my income streams when I move to the island. I want to grow and sell my own food. So,
Well, what I recommend is make a victory garden now, get some practice in.
yeah, well, I got a lot of experience growing marijuana, so
But that's
that's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but that's not growing stuff outside that's not dealing with fruits. That's not understanding different
I
bugs that can
know,
affect
but
a
it's
tree.
like you're growing something, so you're kind of like getting the idea. But yeah, I've been looking up how to grow bananas, papayas, fucking avocado, so that way I get over there, I kind of have an idea how to do all of this.
But I would start growing stuff that might have issues. Like, how do you deal with the bug infestation? Like, grow lettuce, grow easy stuff, cucumbers, that kind of stuff. That way, it gets that itch down, so you're in that mindset. So when you have problems, you have the experience to build off of it.
Yeah, because if something destroys your crops, you're fucked. So you got to learn how to, say you get that bug problem or whatever, you got to learn how to combat that so you can fix the problem. Because I knew a chick that had a whole basement full of marijuana plants, and she fucking got some kind of like bug, and it fucking killed all of the plants, and she was devastated. So
I would have told her just to get diglicious earth, which is basically crushed up seashells, and that kills most insects. So
yeah, she
like,
didn't know what to do, so she was freaking out, and
you
I'm
know what
pretty
I
sure
learned?
most of them just died.
I learned that from growing lettuce. So like that's the kind of stuff I'm telling you. A lot of this it's crossover. You need to gain the skills. Just like if you go back into the prepper community area, you want to grow those skills and they can be used in other aspects of your life. You grow your own food. Now I can monetize my own food. Okay, now what can I do with that food? I can make it in the jam. I can can it. I can make stews. I can do all this stuff and then sell that. Now I have a sellable good that people want that I can charge for a good price. And if things go south, I got the skills and the equipment to actually can my own food. So this is what I was telling you about. If you treat your side hustle like a prepper would, you already have the right mindset of monetizing it and making it a profit because you're going to gain all these extra skills which you can monetize. And that's the important thing is you don't want to be hyper focused on the one skill. You want to be a jack of all trades. That's what you want to be.
Now, okay, Lord, we got a message here for you from Success Pool Endeavors. Hermit, who's the coder? I believe that Zeitgeist Eater is looking for pen testers for the Mir Project 2.0. Do you have a way for him to contact you further on that?
Pen testing? You mean like hacking it? Because it said pen testing.
I assume penetration testing, yes.
I I have been diving into cybersecurity. I don't mind doing it for free for fun, but I have to think about it because I'm fully committed at the moment. Um I guess you can give him my Discord information and then I guess we can chat about that. Though I'll be honest, I've never done pet testing, but I've done defense, but not penetration though.
You might want to. I don't know if you guys follow TFM at all, but
Yeah, I
Halsey
watched TFM.
Halsey has his own ABASH protocol, and I know for a fact that he has people testing security on that. So you probably reach out to that team if you're looking for somebody to you know poke holes in your IT network to see if it's okay. And then the other thing I was going to say is a lot of jobs now are work from home jobs, and you might be able to find a job. Say you live in Kentucky, okay? Jobs are kind of rough. Well, you might be able to find a job that's, LA based and work from home, making LA money living in Kentucky. You'll be pretty much set for life because you'd be making twice as much as the average person in Kentucky.
I'm already doing that, except with my career.
Yeah, but I'm
Well,
just
I
saying,
think a
like,
lot of people just don't know where to find those types of jobs. Like, I would have no idea where to look.
I can tell you, well, in any community, what kind of jobs that most people don't want to do? Billing, all that is subcontracted out or work from home jobs. Any job that can be done on a computer technically can be work from home. So think of a
Yeah,
job
I would
that's computer based and that normally could be work from home.
Yeah, I would say for most people, just find a unique product or service and then figure out how to sell that product or service. Like for eBay, for example, you find all the unique products, but then you use the eBay platform that's already made to sell it. And then like for Airbnb, all I got to do is buy the tiny house and then I list it on Airbnb. So like just figure out unique products or experiences and then figure out how to market it.
But I'm just trying to attack this from different angles, give people more options because work from home jobs is low cost entry into a new field. It's not, and a lot of them are part time jobs. You just need a computer and an active printer, and you're good to go. So that's a good avenue for a side hustle too. Compare.
Another side hustle that I was just thinking about the other day is, so when I move over to the island, I'm going to be about 20, 30 minutes away from Volcanoes National Park. So I was thinking if I could learn all Volcanoes National Park, I could put that on my Airbnb as a tour guide. So they could pay me to stay in my Airbnb, and then they could pay me for the tour. And then I get to fucking hang out at Volcanoes National Park all day and just show them the volcano and all these cool things. So like, just think outside the box. Like that would be fucking awesome to do.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. You got to find ways of monetizing your hobbies. Find the area around you. Grow whatever you can find a way to monetize. That's what you should be thinking about. And charging a good amount of money for your hard work. Don't go cheap. Like, don't feel bad if you're charging somebody for a service, because
Yeah,
as long as you're giving a
the
good
best
service, you shouldn't feel bad.
the best thing about the Volcanoes National Park thing is I can probably it's $30 to get in, so I could probably get them to pay the $30 to get in, and then I'd have to figure out what I could realistically charge. But Volcanoes National Park is a huge place. I was just there a month ago. If you want to see everything there, you have to be there legit for a week. And like, yeah, I seen some cool stuff. I seen some like hieroglyphics and dried up lava formations, but like I didn't fucking know where to go to see like the running lava and shit. So if I like learned where all that stuff was, like a tourist, your average tourist is gonna go there and they're gonna be like how I was. They're like, I don't fucking know where to go. So if I learn all the cool spots to go, they could just pay me for it.
Well,
And that would definitely be worth it.
do you also know that if you go to any courthouse in the country and spend $100, you get a lifetime to go to see to any national park?
I
Did you
didn't
know?
know that.
So that's what I would do. If you're spending $30 a day, you can just go in and you get like a card. They take your picture, it looks like an ID card, and you can just you just look up any place that has a national park, and you can just look up for a
Yeah, I'll definitely do
lifetime
that. But
membership, and it's like $100, and then you're
yeah, I
done.
haven't decided if I was going to do this or not yet, but I think I might. Because, if they're staying in my Airbnb and say they're spending like $100 a night in my Airbnb, and then, maybe they could even buy like some of the food that I grow, and then they could pay me to take them on a tour to Volcanoes National Park. So there's like so many ways that I can turn my property and the area that I'm living to where I could monetize it to my advantage.
Yeah, but just remember, everything you're talking about requires significant amount of money. You have to buy a house. I'm trying to give people an idea with minimum startup costs.
Yeah, like
Like
what I plan on doing, I already kind of been planning for like 3 years now. So
yeah, it's a good plan. I'm not saying it, but I'm saying for stuff for people that looking at options that don't have the means or they're starting from square one. There's a lot of websites out there that offer free, um, you know, type like subscribe, writing down documents down and typing up speech. And a lot of people don't realize you can do text to speech. You can just talk in a microphone, talk out what they want to write out, and it'll automatically type it out for you, and you can get a they normally pay you by the paragraph. So if you're a fast talker and you can proofread it, you can get these articles done real quick, and you can make a couple $100 in a day.
or
Like
like here's another side hustle people probably don't think about is if you know another language, you could probably figure out how to become a translator.
yep, or transcriber. There's a bunch of things to look into. It's my whole point is find avenues where it's not doesn't cost a lot of money to actually get into. So like,
Yeah, and
you
that's
know,
another reason why I say eBay is such a good thing because
mhm.
you just take $150 to $100, you do your research, you go to the thrift store, garage sale, you buy the stuff, you flip it, and it's very you can start with a little amount of money and then scale up to where it's more money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But that's the same thing. Like with the transcribing jobs, it's like $75 a paper, and it might take you 45 minutes to do, and you can take as much or as little as you want. So you have an open Saturday, and you want to work for 8 hours, you can make like $700 on a Saturday just transcribing documents by speaking into a microphone. So
Hell yeah.
I'm just saying the stuff's out there. You just got to find it. There's a lot of YouTube shorts on them. You can just type in like side hustles and just go on YouTube and figure out what you like. And then they normally give you the websites and tell you what to do. And most of them, all you just need is a computer. So just
Yeah, there
uh,
there is so much stuff out there. You just got to think outside the box and you got to do your own research and you got to think about what you like to do. Cause like when I was looking online, cause I told you guys about the making banana chips thing, there's a whole YouTube channel where this guy just like bakes all sorts of different things and he sells them online and he teaches you how to do it. So like if you're really good at baking stuff, you could monetize that.
yep,
Now,
whatever you can monetize.
now
I'm
another
just
thing
trying
is,
to give you. Go ahead.
we've talked a lot about active income streams. But Successful is asking, what are some good ways of creating passive income streams?
Well, there's two. There's only two types. There is you know, real estate and financial. So there's two types of financial. There's what's called income checks, so or income stocks, which will pay you a percentage of their profits every year, every quarter, every month. There's bonds, which bonds is basically you pay upfront money and then they pay you interest every month and then they pay you the principal at the end. That's how a bond works. There's a thing called a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust, which is basically an income stock but done with real estate. So, say for example, easy numbers: a hospital costs $100 million, and you have $1 million to invest. That property, you're going to get one hundredth of the income that property would generate as you know their mortgage payment. So if their mortgage is $100 million, you would be getting $1 million a tick because you put in a hundredth of what that REIT required. So it REIT's just another way of monetizing for real estate, but it allows for you to not have to invest the whole upfront money. And then when they're done with large commercial properties, hospitals, and public works, and then there's another one with financial like you can do properties like they'll have like an HOA community might need $100 million because they're trying to make 100 plots of land, and then you'll get the mortgage payments. So that's another way of looking at that. And then stocks, bonds. I mean, mutual funds can offer it. You really want, when you talk about investments, you always want to diversify, and you always really want to come up with a game plan of what you want to do, and you're always looking at risk versus reward. The more risk you take, the higher reward, but higher you're going to lose everything. So you always want to diversify in every different aspect of what you're investing in. So
I would say probably one of the best income streams that's like a passive income stream is real estate. And like another thing that is really good that could definitely decrease your cost of living is a thing called like house hacking. So basically you buy like a townhome, you live in one and then you rent out the other side. So they're basically covering your whole cost of living. And then there's land hacking where like you live in a tiny house and then you have a few other tiny houses and you rent them out and they cover your cost of living. So that's
yeah,
a
but
lot.
the
So
time of real estate is coming to an end because interest rates are going to go up, and the cost of getting a loan is not going to be as cheap as it is now.
You
So
can do it in programming too. Like for example, you can literally make your own website. I mean, it's active, but the passive part is you make some templates, or you have a client and you tell the client, "I'll do this for free, but I want commission," and then you just keep getting money. I don't know if that's considered passive, but that's
yeah, it
something
is.
that is in my industry.
Well, the other one is, what about, don't you guys have stuff where you're selling a trademark, so you get to capitalize on the products that go through it? So like if you design the back end software for doing their sales, you should get a percentage of those sales.
Usually, I don't know the details on that because that's like major companies. What
But
I
I'm
will
saying,
do, like as a side gig, I'll just help someone sell stuff on a website, and they need help with the website. I'll make something for them, and then I'll ask for like 1% commission.
Well, the thing is, you can do commission, or you can say, I'm not going to take a big upfront money, but I want 1% of the sales. So if
Yeah,
you
I do
think
that
that
all
this
the time.
but that's how you can passive income your industry. So, and
Yes.
the thing about with passive income is you got to look at when you're receiving those payments. So you might get them at the beginning of the month. It might be quarterly. It might be annually, and you might have to pay taxes on it too. So just understand if you're going to do anything with investments, and you should really talk to a financial planner. Is my 100% recommendation. I mean,
I
I'm
was actually
I'm
I
working
was
on a.
research bad.
Oh, sorry, real quick. I'm actually working on a document for it to go over the details of all this stuff, because no one really understands risk versus reward, financial planning, all that kind of stuff. So I'm working on that. Hopefully, I'll be able to share it one day.
But yeah, the other day I was looking up certain side hustles, and I seen there's this one where, say you have a motorhome that you only use a couple times a year, or a camper van. There are these websites where you can rent out your motorhome or camper van. So when you're not using it, you could literally be making money. And I found this one YouTube channel. This dude was making like $4,000 like like a month it might have been, and he was just renting out a camper van. So like if you guys have a motor home and you only use it a couple times a year, that could be a good way to make passive income. There are websites that cover the whole thing where they screen the person and everything, so that way you're not renting it out to some lunatic. So that could be something to look into for people that, if you just have a motorhome you use a couple times a year.
Mm-hmm. But anytime you talk about that kind of big money, I'd always get a financial person involved just to make sure you understand the tax implications on that kind of stuff in contracts, because you can really put yourself in a hurt if you don't put the right stipulations in a contract. So just
Yeah.
understand that if you're going to, especially in something that costs like $200,000 for some of these motorhomes, you want to make sure that all your ends are covered.
But also you can get a camper van for like anywhere between 10, 15, $20,000, and then you could rent that out and you could make like a couple $1,000s a month, especially in like the summertime or something.
True, because my friend's dad, that's his job. He guts things and turns them into like campers and sleeping vans and stuff like that. That's what he does for a living.
Yeah. Well,
So
another
I
thing
understand
that
exactly what you're
that
talking about.
another thing chat's been mentioning, royalties and licensing photos / font / music is also passive income stream from PK Grows and Successful Endeavors. Once upon a time, you could make money from creating videos through the ads, but those days are long gone. I know that
But it's
like the Epic Store and the Unity Store, plus a couple of the other game engine stores, they've usually got a place where you can sell like some sort of either assets directly, completed projects, or even just plugins or sample programs of code for other people to use in their products.
correct, but
I would
without
consider that active because you're responsible for making sure that asset works as intended. But
no,
I
you
could
can
be
hire
wrong on
people
that.
out.
Oh, okay.
Without doxing myself. I know certain people in my family are in pretty successful bands, and trust me, the amount of pie cutting, in a sense, meaning like all the handouts you got to pay people to do certain things, it's really not that profitable. You might think they're making a lot of money, but they're really not, because everybody wants a sliver of that pie. So that's the other thing that I was going to want to cover real quick is when you're doing things, the more work you're doing, the more of the pie you're going to get. Once you start parting out that pie, like I'm going to hire a marketing team and all this other stuff, it's less pie that you're going to control, and that expense is always going to be there. So try to make sure that you keep as much of the pie to yourself as you possibly can. Otherwise, you're really going to be digging yourself a grave. It's important. So I just wanted to cover that real quick.
Another question from the chat. I understand what you guys are getting at. So, what is a good income per year dollar mark you'd consider doing well?
It depends on what investment you're talking about and what the market is doing right now. So, like for right now, I can go into I can get a TIPS, which is a Treasury inflationary protected asset, and earn 8% a year. But inflation is 6% in this example. So I'm only making 2%. I might be making 8%, but I'm only covering inflation. So I'm technically not. I'm just treading water. So it all depends on what you want to get out of an asset, like state bonds. You don't have to pay state and local taxes on those bonds because they're state run. It's one of the benefits of having a state bond. However, when stocks do well, bonds do crappy, and when stocks do crappy, bonds do well. So they're basically, if you want to diversify, you definitely want to make sure you have bonds and stocks, because if some years go up, you're gonna do well in stocks, and when stocks do crappy, you'll get bonds. So it really comes down to what kind of diversification you want to do, what assets you want to do, what strategies you want to do, how you want to get paid, what kind of risk assessment you want to. There's a lot of factors. I mean, I can list them all, but you probably don't have enough time for that. But my point is, this is why you need to hire a financial planner, because he's going to take what your goals are and tell you what you need to do to make those kind of goals. Like, I'm probably talking hours for this, going over all the different types of risks, all the different types of financial instruments. There's a lot of things to go over if you're going to go down that path. But the key thing you need to realize is everything that you want has a cost and a benefit towards it. And you have to determine what the market is doing right now and to see if you're doing better or worse than the market, and how much you're going to pay somebody to do better. So if I plan on having someone, manage my funds, he better be doing at least 2 or 3% higher than what the market is, because he's charging me 2% just to manage those funds. So that's the kind of thing. If you don't know what the market's doing, you're kind of just pissing your money away. So if the market's doing 10 and he's giving me 9 and he's charging me 2%, I'm losing money. So this is, and he won't tell you this, you just have to do your own research. So this is, if you want to do active and passive income, you really gotta have a handle of what's going on and understand the different methods, how to reassess your investments, long-term and short-term plans. There's a lot of stuff to go into.
Now,
So
looks like they were more asking, like, kind of for you personally, what would you consider a good dollar amount for the kind of side hustle work that we've been discussing here, or even just remote work income?
you got to value what you consider what your time is worth. So if I'm putting 8 hours of work and I have no experience, I don't expect to be paid. If I'm doing this for 6 months and I got experience now, and I think I deserve, $25 an hour, there's my benchmark. So if I'm working 8 hours, if I'm at making $200 in that 8 hours, I'm not working, I'm working for free basically. So what am I doing wrong? So this is why I was saying before, you need to establish benchmarks. So you can say, is my time worth this? Yes or no. If it's worth it, yeah, let's continue doing it. If it's wrong, I got to reassess. Maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'm doing something wrong and I got to figure out what I'm doing wrong. But you always have to figure out benchmarks for you to establish. And I won't know this, until we have a more not so general conversation of what you're talking about, because what you're doing kind of matters on what you're willing to make. Like if I'm making I'm making glass, colored glass, and it costs me $100 to make this. It takes me 10 hours to do. So I'm only charging $10 an hour, and then my goods are up to another, $25. If I'm selling it for $125, I'm breaking even. I mean, it's not worth my time. If I'm selling it for 200, yeah, it's worth my time to make that kind of commitment, because it's costing me 10 hours to make that one thing. So it really all depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what you value your time. I know it's not really the answer you wanted to hear, but without knowing more details, that's all I can tell you.
My phone's about to die in a minute, so I'm going to jump off. Do you have any other questions about eBay before I jump off?
Nothing that comes to mind. I think we've been through it thoroughly. Maybe if you can give a sec, maybe chat might have one or two final questions.
Well, I got a quick question. Let me know when you make lemon flavor banana chips. I love that stuff.
Yeah, that'll be like a year. I'm moving over to the island probably next September. So right now I bought land over there and on the big island of Hawaii. Now I'm kind of just saving up for a nest egg. I'm gonna buy a tiny house, grow my own food, live off grid, and just been brainstorming ways how to make money. And yeah, eBay I think is definitely going to be one of my income sources. But yeah, for anybody in the chat that wants to get started on eBay, just make sure you do your research, binge watch those YouTube channels, Rally Roots, Harry Tornado, Part Time Picker, and then just like look at other channels too. That's what I did. I did all my research because I didn't want to buy products that weren't going to sell. I wanted to make sure everything that I was going to buy was going to sell. So I binge watched these channels. I watched what they were selling, and then I kind of like a Rally Roots, they do a lot of vintage t-shirts, and there's so much vintage clothing at thrift stores. It was just easy. So like I would sell a lot of old band shirts, old Camel cigarette shirts sold for a lot of money. I bought a fucking old Prince shirt. I paid up for it. I paid $80 for it, but I sold it for 400. I sold a Terminator 2 shirt for 185. Fucking what is that old movie with the gorilla Congo? I fucking bought one of those shirts for $5, sold it for like 80. Like, you would be amazed some of the stuff that sells out there. Stuff I felt like a real life Jawa, because you know how the Jawas on Star Wars are kind of like looking through trash and they're selling it. That's kind of what it felt like I was doing. It was kind of cool.
All right. Well, it looks like chat's just like really thankful for your time here. So thanks for popping on, Hermit. It's always a pleasure to have you on
I'll
the
probably
stream.
hang out in the chat for a minute. My phone's at like 5% battery, but yeah, I'll hang out in the chat for a little bit. I'll shill my channel, and yeah, I'll have to pop off. Like I said, I'm starting a new workout program tomorrow, so I got to wake up every morning at 5, do about 30-40 minutes of fasted cardio, and it's mainly a calisthenics workout program. So a lot of I'm going to be doing my fasted cardio in the morning, and then at like 8 o'clock at night, I do a lot of like push-ups, pull-ups, dips, and stuff like that. I like to switch from weight training to calisthenics a lot. It kind of like, your body will get used to weight training, and then when you go back to calisthenics, it like kind of shocks it. And then when you do calisthenics for a while, then you go back to weight training. It kind of like always keeps your body like guessing and growing. So it's what I like to do, and I really enjoy calisthenics. So I like calisthenics a lot, so I try to do it as frequently as I can.
All right. All right. Well, fucking good luck with that, and hopefully you'll get enough sleep. And we've also got Brandon Trueblood waiting in the wings too. Finally managed to get in contact with him, so we'll be bringing him on a second.
Dope. I'll jump off and I'll hang out in the chat for a minute. All right, see you guys, and nice talking to you again, Bandit.
Yep. Nice talking to you too.
Good night, Hermit.
See you guys.
All right, calling now. Should have Brandon on in a second. All right, welcome, Brandon Trueblood.
Howdy.
What's going on?
What's up?
It's just a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I got some questions for you, but later.
Okay.
Well, this is really the place.
I hear
for
you
it,
guys
so.
are talking tonight about remote computer earning.
Well, any sort of alternative income in general, but yeah, remote work or just work that can be done kind of anywhere in almost any setting without needing to rely on like a local boss or a physical location.
Well, a couple of the places that I go, um, you have online English classes that anybody who is a native English speaker can teach. And those are kind of hard because you really have to hustle. There's a lot of people out there that are doing that. Those would be like websites like italki and stuff like that. Because I've got a degree, I can charge more, and I got certified with my English as a second language stuff. So I can teach business English and stuff like that, where a lot of the foreign nationals really want to learn English for business purposes. But just even without a degree, you can make $20 an hour.
Yeah, I agree. My mom makes about 20 to 25 with magic years before they went under.
Yeah, and if you get lucky, you can meet people. Like I was able to parlay a couple of those into a contract with a company where they would send all of their people who they wanted to learn English to me, and and I was able to cut out the italki or the or whatever company I was running through. You have to learn how to network, and you have to be able to put up with a bunch of people that don't really value your time. But you, at the same time, if they don't show up for their lessons, you charge them anyways.
Brandon, you might want to switch
So,
to a pure audio feed. I think that like your connection's getting kind of funky, so the video might be interfering.
okay, is that better?
Yeah, it definitely sounds more consistent now.
Okay. Another thing that I've done to make money is I've written, I've done people's homework for money. There are many different sites out there. Um, Unfortunately, the math problems I used to do for a lot of money, Google Solver has gotten so good that anybody who can use Google Solver can solve their own math problems, and I don't have to, I don't do that any very much. But writing term papers um, is big bucks. I've even written one guy's dissertation for his master's degree.
Oh wow. So, now you mentioned networking. Do you have any tips or practices or stories of networking you can share?
Well, uh, there was one company that I was working for, and the boss lady really, really didn't think her shit was, she thought her shit didn't stink at all. And I was so friendly to everybody in that company, all the other teachers and the admins and stuff like that. And I started, just being friendly with people. That's all networking is. Remembering people's names, putting their birthdays in your little calendar so you can wish them a happy birthday, even though you don't talk to them very often. You're just keeping yourself in their mind. And because the boss of this place was so awful, I was able to steal 3 out of her 5 employees of her full-time teachers. Um, and and I and she was awfully angry. She was very angry about that. But the funny part of it is the company that I was stealing these teachers for was a company that I couldn't make. I couldn't make their appointments anymore, and I had to find other teachers to teach the classes that I had committed to. and I offered to sell this boss lady this company, to sell her the rights to go in and take over. It's sort of like oh, when you rent an apartment and then you rent somebody else who's renting the apartment
Oh,
from
kind
you.
of like subcontracting, kind
Yeah,
of, right?
yeah, like subcontracting or subrent or something. I don't remember what that's called. But anyways, I
Sublease,
was going to do that. I was going to
sublet.
do that. Yeah, sublet. I was going to subcontract these classes to this boss lady and just let her run the whole thing. But she didn't want to spend the money. So, anyways, that was kind of funny. Just basically be nice to everybody. That's all you got to do. And you have to have an ear where you can understand people with funny accents.
Hmm. Yeah, because you never know who exactly you're gonna be with on any particular job site or in any particular office.
Right. And if you've got like I had a mixture of Eastern European and Asian students, mostly from India. So I was working some funky hours. Even while living in Eastern Europe, I was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning so I could start teaching at 5.
Sounds like my mom's schedule. She worked for China and America, and then sometimes in Europe.
Yeah.
Horrible hours. 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. The worst she had was like 2 p.m. And then all of a sudden 2 a.m. It's like you don't have a chance to sleep.
Right. And that's one of the things about being your own boss is you can either decide to become a night shift worker like that, or you can just focus your attention on South America.
Yeah, true. Because like in the warband chat, like we work with, like we got a bunch of people from all over the place. So we've got some people in Europe, and then a good spread across the U.S. So usually the guy running the lessons is running on like Pacific time, and then there's a bunch of us on the Eastern Coast. So hours get funky.
Yeah, same thing for programmers. You never know when all of a sudden you have to work for a completely different client from a different country, or even worse, someone broke into your system or a stupid deadline.
Yeah, crunch time is real, huh?
Ah, Captain Crunch. Yes, I know it too damn well.
But yeah, okay, Lord. You said you had some questions for Brandon specifically. What are they?
Oh, I was wondering how's the market doing for English teaching because of China's lockdown with online learning. She basically lost like all her income, and she said she's trying to look. And I was wondering where's the market at the moment. She's looking at Japan, but they pay really bad compared to the Chinese market.
Oh yeah, nobody pays like China. South Korea is one place. Vietnam is another. Um, Thailand. Um, I like the Thais most of all. They're fun. They're the most fun people to work with. Um, and then just basically the rest of the non-English speaking world. The Yeah, the whole China stuff going away was a bad deal, and I for different reasons have decided to get out of doing the remote learning. Um, I was having some health issues that was related to the heat, and I've decided to become an over the road trucker, and I got hired on, and I'll be going to school for that here in a bit. And that's another way that you can get paid and not have to pay additional rent anywhere. If you're an over the road trucker, you can live in your truck.
My dad did that for years, actually. He drove like those big trucks, and I always wonder, "Hey, Dad, where you live?" And this is when I was way younger, and he said, "My car." He lived in that thing for like 10 years, and then he bought a house.
Yeah.
Actually,
I've already got land, so this is just going to be great for as far as income and having somebody else pay for the upkeep on it and everything.
well, maybe you want to go into that a little bit more, like the process of getting in, what you need to invest in, how to start, because that could be something for a lot of people here. Good way to.
Oh, it's really really simple. You go online and you type in free CDL training, and you'll get all kinds of different companies that will pop up. And I found a company that I'm not going to mention out loud that pays you while you're getting your training. And it's fantastic. Where else can you go to school, get paid to go to school, and then start once you graduate and get your license? Um, because graduating the school gives you your license. You're automatically in the front door with probably 3 weeks of training, making 65,000 a year.
Yeah, I can't think of many that are that good. Like I hear that some trades will do that, but personally, I haven't really found a lot with that, especially not the trades that require certifications.
I know a few
Yeah.
for programming. Matter of fact, we call them apprenticeship. I think also electricians do the same thing. My company at some point was running a program where the students get paid. We call it a stipend, but it's really getting paid, and they got paid like $100 a week. It's not a lot of money, but then after that, some of them got guaranteed jobs with some major telecom companies, and they're doing pretty well. But I think it just depends, really.
Well,
Whatever the government decides in programming nowadays, unfortunately.
well, how long would that take to get? Like, say you wanted to get into that, but you're past the point where you can live on $100 a week.
That's a good question, and I was in that boat a long time ago. Um, Most don't pay, but ones that do pay for that amount, usually these programs, if they're a boot camp, that is, depends on the program. It's usually going to be 12 weeks to maybe 20 weeks. My program is 12 weeks. So within 12 weeks, we had to train these students HTML, CSS, and JavaScript in 12 weeks. And then we got them into a major telecom company. 20 students pass out of the 20 out of the 50 were able to pass the boot camp. Unfortunately, anything with programming, especially if it's introduction, majority will fail. So don't be surprised when you see the fail rate.
So don't just jump in until you have done some free alternatives and know you can handle the work and have somewhere between 4 to 6 months of your living expenses saved up.
100%. And I stress this all the time with my students. Now my company doesn't give that weekly. Now it's no money, but you can find a lot of programs out there. One of them that I do not recommend. Actually, no, I shouldn't do that. Shouldn't be mean to the company. There are companies out there that will pay you like $15 an hour, and they give you a contract. So they'll train you for 6 months, and then you have to be within the company for 2 years, as an example. And if you decide to cancel that contract, you have to pay the remaining amount of hours that you did not work for that company. So, for example, if you work for 1 year and you want to terminate the contract, you have to pay a year of salary, as an example.
Yeah, it sounds like something that you'd want to avoid.
Avoid.
It sounds like a cell phone plan kind of scam.
I only recommend it for students that I know they cannot produce, if that makes sense. Like, I was like, look, I'm going to be honest. You don't know enough, and this is your best bet unless you want to risk it. But if you know what you're doing, I recommend you get what you're worth.
One thing to do realize is, and I've been seeing this more and more, especially with the whole trucker thing in Canada. Anytime someone can, it requires a license or join some, like, for example, real estate or some professional organization, that stuff can be used against you. So just remember, like, they can always revoke a license, or they can take away your part of an organization, and now you can't do your job anymore. So just have that mindset too with these kind of job fields that you're looking into, to understand it. Do I need to be part of a professional organization, and is that going to be weaponized against me at some point? Because that
Yeah.
whole trucker thing really scared a lot of people that needed licenses, because Canada basically took the whole their license away, and then they couldn't have a job. It's
Sorry
really
to,
scary for a lot of people.
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
especially for people in this sphere.
Hmm.
Uh, I want to reply to Cool Chicken. What I mentioned was front end. What you were doing, by the looks of it, Python and Java, you're doing back end by the looks of it, and data management. Python is usually for data science as well, and Java's a weird hybrid. But nowadays, Java is used mostly for the back end for legacy systems. So don't say you're dumb.
Do you guys do any like SQL work, like like database management or query
Oh, I
searching?
used to, and I hate it.
Because I
I
know a lot
forced
of
my
people,
company to pay a shit ton of money on that. I hate that shit.
I know a lot of companies are asking for it, like SQL, that kind of stuff.
Well, they don't understand when they say SQL, to be honest. What they're really trying to say is they want someone who knows how to manage a database, not
Correct.
a
Yeah.
program.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
So they get paid a shit ton of money. If you know what you're doing, yeah. But SQL doesn't really mean programming. It just means a completely different discipline. How you
Hmm.
know how to manage a database, and what type of query languages do you use? Is it going to be JSON? Is it going to be some form of proprietary language, etc., or even Python? That's the major reason why Python is used. It's very good integrating with other um, query languages. Really good, and a very popular one right now is YAML. But that's because of the Linux industry, as I like to
Okay.
call it.
Because I had to do the Excel based one where you're using like if statements all the time to do the searches.
If statement.
Like if this, do that. If this, do that.
It sounds like a script to me. I mean,
Yeah.
that is yeah, what kind of what's running the script? Is it like Bash?
No, like I'd have pull data from the database and then have to run an if statement to figure out, like, talk about old school. But
Oh, you're
trying to
talking about
figure,
old school. Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's coming from a terminal directly from the query. So what language does it use?
I don't know, whatever Excel uses. I'm not into.
Excel, most likely. What is it called? Basic something? Because you're saying it's Windows.
Yeah, it's probably like, it's
Basic
just
Visual something.
yeah.
Visual. I think it's Visual. A lot of those type of programs use C. So
Hmm.
most likely it's a C structure.
Got it.
Now, on that note, would C++ or C Sharp be worth investing time into? Because I found a couple related to that regarding the Unreal Engine, which I'm familiar with.
Well, it depends what you want to do with gaming. I haven't really made too many games, but I'll tell you this: nowadays we live in a world where you just need to just use the engine, get some assets, do some basic coding. You don't really need to know any of that unless you're making something customized. Then that's when the story changes. Most developers for video games have no clue how to program, believe it or not.
I believe that, but outside of like just the video game environment, do C Sharp, C++ have any practical use, or is it more just for the gaming industry these days?
Oh no, you can use it for many things. C++ is majorly used because it's critical infrastructure. C++ is the fastest type of language we can use at the moment because you can optimize it very specifically, which is why it's very difficult to program with at the same time. So any infrastructure you can imagine, I don't know, some cheese factory, gonna make sure it has the right temperature. You need that quick answer to these machines that are going to run in firmware. You got to make sure that program knows exactly at the most precise nanosecond. That's C++. C sharp is a little bit more higher level. I haven't dig too much with C sharp. I know that's more modern than C++. But it's not kicking off. And the reason why is just because there's not enough people using it for new infrastructure. It's mostly C++ because it's already been built. There's a bigger library than that compared to the other one. And I wouldn't spend your time on Go, by the way. That's Google's version of C. And you're only going to use it with Google. I'm going to be straight up with you.
About as useful as Google Plus, right?
Oh,
Oof.
God. Yeah.
Quick question about your industry. How woke is it getting? Like,
Oh, God, please, no. I lost 80% of my company's employees. And some of them were actually marked as diversity hires now that I realize when they were actually producing stuff.
oh,
No,
that's
it's
scary.
super goddamn woke. God, like I'll give it an example. My mentor and me are hiding as I guess from these invaders I like to call them. And I was like, please don't pick me. Because if they find out I am any of the following, which I shouldn't say actually, but any of them, they'll instantly fire me. But I pretend. Matter of fact, I put my pronouns as they, them, so they don't fuck with me. And it works so far. And if I want to get anyone inside the program, I literally tell them, especially if they are a white male. Unfortunately, this is just the truth. I had a friend that is a white male, and I literally told him, you ain't going to get in. Put there that you're they, them, and put other. And he got in instantly. While his other friend didn't listen to my advice, and he's not in the program.
So
Yeah, that's not much.
that's where you really want to become a masculine presenting trans lesbian.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think I'm just lucky, to be honest. I should not be in this company, but I am somehow. And I'm just there every day wondering what the hell is this woke ass shit's going on. They made me teach about women in technology, how to get them more, and the pay gap. And I'm like, bro, I'm teaching computer science. Why the hell do I need to teach them about the gender gap? It has nothing to do with the hell I'm teaching here. You need to know programming, not fucking gender study.
That's why school should be based off the trades. It should be, if I'm learning something, I should just learn what I need to learn and not worry about, like, if I'm a business student, I shouldn't worry about social studies or like, you know, you know, basket weaving or some bullshit class that I have to take. It should just be straight business. If you're in programming, it should just be programming, and maybe programming ethics is probably the closest you're going to get to ethics. But other than that, no, that's all you should need to learn. Like, we shouldn't be going to college for this stupid crap and taking like half our credits just in stuff that's not even our degree.
Well, they do that on purpose. Like my
Oh, I know.
godmother was actually the head of one of the colleges here when it comes to advisory. And I know a lot of those dirty secrets. Like, for example, whenever they make a curriculum, they make sure whatever curriculum they're building, like I give example, cybersecurity, they make sure that there's extra curriculum that you do not need is completely different discipline. So they get more funding and grants.
Oh
And
yeah,
that-
and you get
And the
charged
worst
for
part about it is exactly what you said. It's useless. I literally looked at one of my syllabuses for cybersecurity and it literally said lockpicking was mandatory. And I'm like, why do I need to know lockpicking? I get the concept behind it because the tradition of hacking, but I want to know how to use a computer and how to protect myself or hack and make sure I don't get in trouble by the law. Well, what the hell is lockpicking going to do to help me? And guess what? I know how to lockpick and it's, I guess, useful, but not for my industry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe you're going to be working on the Elder Scrolls 6.
Oh, Bio, I was a beta tester for the stupid Elder Loans online. God damn, that game sucked. I don't know, just random.
Yeah, no one needed data testing. Fallout 76.
Oh no, that's a feature.
That game was terrible.
Oh, I used to do beta testing. That's how I first started in programming, believe it or not. What a shit job. Holy shit. I work for a gambling company. I mean, they're not a gambling company, but I call them a gambling company with all those stupid fucking gotchas and shit.
You're like, I pulled 3 SSRs in a row. This is a bug. It needs to be fixed.
Oh yeah, no, that happens right away. One time we had a bug where people were able to get like the super rare gotchas with some weird exploit in. I shouldn't say the game because that's gonna.
Yeah, no, don't.
Anyway,
don't.
pretty much they found this exploit, and the whole company, especially the Japanese market, because technically speaking, the company's HQ is actually in Japan and Korea, mostly Japan, and they literally shut down all their services for that specific game. and roll back everyone and didn't even give people refunds. And I was just there like, okay, so am I gonna beta test this?
Yeah.
Oh God, what a shit show. No one tests their stuff anymore. Trust me on this. They don't pay professional testers anymore. They just have all these early access stuff. You are the guinea pig.
Yeah, I kind of figured that was going that way, but it's sad though because even if we report all the mistakes, they're not going to fix them. They don't have the time. So, like, say, like, there's games out there that have so many errors, but everybody's reporting them by the launch date. They can't fix all of them.
Yeah, that's why I always recommend some of my clients that want to make a game. I tell them you should hire a professional game developer that knows some basic programming because they can look at the code when the error happens and they can just give it to the development team to fix versus a whole bunch of people that have no idea how to report it correctly. And then if I give it an example, I shouldn't give an example. Let's just say there's a game where you have an issue where every time you click on the specific item, it just disappears. But it only disappears when you do a certain action. The common user is not going to know that, especially if they don't have a debugging tool to see what's going on in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So every time they report it, the developer's like, we don't get it. We're replicating the best we can. It makes no sense. Except maybe that one person that reported it correctly and said, hey, when I do this specifically, which is replicated, causes this bug. And that's where you can find out what's conflicting with it. Is it overwriting? Is there a limit with how many objects could be in the game, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're the guinea pig and you're not sure what's going on, you're not a professional, how the hell you report it correctly? Unless it's a very obvious bug. It ain't going to get fixed correctly if it has something very specific. And usually those specific bugs crash the whole game. And the user has no idea how to report it. And that ain't going to get fixed. And also, like you said, if everyone's reporting it, how the hell they're going to filter it correctly? Especially if they're putting insults. Yo, the insults are very funny. Oh,
Yeah,
some really good ass ones.
no one cares about quality anymore.
I think it depends. If it's an indie developer, I find most indie developers that actually care to do a good job, like really good. And I'm not talking about like people that you can tell by the game art style and how they made it. It's like a real game. Can't stand AAA companies anymore. It's just for profit.
Yeah, that's the problem. To them, they're already moving on to the next one. They wait, they have a budget of like $100 million and not a penny more, and they don't leave any money for data testing. And then the game comes out, it turns out to be shit.
Oh no, zero. They don't beta test. I'm gonna just say it straight up. They don't. You think EA or Activision does? I have some insight on EA. They don't put any money in real game development when it comes to data testing and make sure the product comes out because they do this stupid hybrid of waterfall and Scrum. And I'm just there like, excuse me. And for those who don't know what waterfall and Scrum, it's basically how you deliver the product. And they're using two methods to get it done. In reality, you should always use one method for a specific product. So their pipeline, as we call it, meaning deploying live services, as they call it now, is just going to be a shit show where they're like, we got to show this feature out. We tested this a while ago. This doesn't work. We don't care. Shove it. And then it gets shut down a while ago because the higher ups have no fucking clue. And they're like, oh shit, this is not working. Why you launched this? Well, you told us to launch it. Shut it down. Roll back. Go back and forth. And it's literally a shit show. And then they put another live service, another update, another patch. And it's just a shit show. Really.
And then you have loot boxes on top of it that makes the people.
Oh no, that's tested. Trust me on that part. I go back to my statement. That they test. Sorry, I forgot about that one.
That's their primary revenue stream right there.
Oh yeah, and some of them even try to make sure it's so easy that kids can do it.
Yeah, did you hear about the one game that they just had on? I think it's the new Diablo game.
Diablo Immortal.
Oh yeah, God!
It's like what, $100,000 to max out your character or something asinine.
Hey, they're making the money. People buy it.
Yeah, but
look at FIFA. For years, I've been always telling my friends, don't buy that shit, but they buy it. Matter of fact, I do know the major company that caused all this stupid loot box in America. Evil company.
Is it EA?
No. It's a all I'll say is a Korean company, and I might as well say it, but no, shit, I don't want to get in trouble.
Don't get
Because
yourself.
there's a lot of DNA, what is it called? Don't disclose type of stuff that I really can't say, and I don't want them
Don't get
fucking
yourself
me
in
over.
trouble. It's not worth it. Don't do
Yeah,
it. It's not worth
it's just a
Yeah,
Korean
and-
company that develop a lot of games here, like a lot of MMOs, and they're very, very well known for the real gachas. I don't know any companies other than them being the first in America specifically. And that's probably where EA took the hint from when they saw how much money they make in revenue.
But it's just a fad. People are just not going to do it.
Oh no, people do it. I want to say they don't, but they do.
They'll
If
stop when it
people-
stops making money.
Like, I every time, this is why I don't make games at all. I used to make games a long time ago, very, very basic games, and help people with it until I got fed up with all the gambling. I was like, I want to make a game because I'm a gamer. I like playing games. I make games to make games. I don't want to. I mean, I'll be honest. If you make a mobile game with these developers, it's so lucrative. You can make a shit ton of money. Holy shit! But it's just not my cup of tea. I don't want to be part of the problem, which is why Diablo Immortals exists. Very cheap to produce, shit ton of money with those whales.
Yeah, they just want one whale and they're good for the year.
Mhm.
Actually, yeah, a lot of these whales will literally spend millions of dollars. I'm not shitting you.
Jesus.
Millions. And I have a cousin who literally spent $100,000 on what's it called? Age of Empire? No, Age of Nations? Whatever. It's one of those cheap, like weird, like medieval type of cities you build and you make an army and you attack other settlements. And
Civilization.
it's something like that. I don't know what it's.
There's like millions of variations of like Rise of Empires, Age of Heroes, that kind of bullshit.
One of those. There's so many. Who knows which one specifically? And he spent like $100,000 on that shit in like 2 years, and I'm just like, you
Dude,
couldn't
man.
like, couldn't you give that money to me?
You could have just
I could have
invested
made.
that.
I could have invested. Yeah, exactly. I could have asked you for some help right there.
Yeah, invest it, and then you could have just, if you really felt bad, you could just, the principal payments of the investment, you could use that on that game, and you'd still have your principal. You know what I mean? Invest
But is it-
100,000.
But he has a very, very strong addictive personality, and that's who they target.
Yeah.
That should be
I'll
a
just
crime.
say it.
It
You know,
should be
it
a-
should be. He's extremely addicted. He has addictive personality. You give him any type of substance, trust me, he'll be hooked on it. Many times he's been in rehab, and that's who they target. That's why I hate FIFA with a passion, because it targets children and they become gamblers. And there's
Yeah,
a lot of studies coming out that they're coming out gamblers. I usually don't like regulation. I don't like it. But sometimes it just makes sense to have it in certain sections.
Yeah, I think kids shouldn't have access to their parents' cards, and I honestly think that the capping of the money, it should be like, okay, if you want to do a $5 box, I get that, but if it's gonna, there should be a cap on how much you can spend on a game.
Oh, that's not gonna happen. There's gonna be lobbied hard. Matter of fact, a long time ago, I helped a third party. Shouldn't give too much detail in a AI, because I do know a little bit of AI. I used to actually program like some enemies in some games. It's pretty basic, but this one specifically was designed to see if how much the person's going to buy. So, for example, if they know the person doesn't have a lot of money and they're hesitant to buy something, they're going to make it cheaper and say, you got a specific sale just for you. Or if you're a whale like my cousin, because one time I played the same game with him, and my loot box, the biggest one, was like $50. His was literally $10,000 for the most expensive. And I look at him, it's like, dude, it's the same amount of resource and shit. Why is mine's like $50 and yours is like 10,000? And that's
It's
when I
targeted
realized
marketing.
exactly. And that's when I realized what I was programming was that shit. Because a lot of times when I do programming for clients, I don't really know what the full picture, because I do a section of the code. I do this section that does this. I don't get to see the full picture in most of these projects.
Well, technically, by law, that should be illegal anyways, because that's predatory. That's predatory
Yeah, but
marketing.
most of these congressmen that we have are
Oh, I
dinosaurs.
know.
They have no concept.
But I'm
And they're
saying
just going to make it worse if they meddle in my
I'm just
opinion, at the
saying
moment.
right now it's illegal because that's predatory marketing. I know that's
Oh, then
illegal.
we got to ask EA that because they're still doing
I
that
know,
shit.
I know. It's
But they got money. That's the difference, you know.
Oh, I
End of
know.
the day, the question is how much money you make that the government will care. If you make too much money, they ain't gonna bother with you because they
Well,
know
they want the
they
tax
can
money
fight
from it.
back.
It's yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. But
Yeah.
I was just curious if there's any questions for the chat on starting a business or side hustle or anything like that.
A
That we can
man with a
answer.
truck has a job. You know, if you have just your vehicle, you can go around places, uh, pick things up. You know, people are throwing stuff away all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Take to the dump for them.
You mean like dumpster diving? Sorry, I think I misheard that.
Well, you can just go around and haul off people's extra trash. Like you find somebody with like a tree that came down after a storm. Say, I'll haul off all your broken down limbs. You know, and you know it's not great money, but it's money.
Oh, I see what you mean. My ex did that, believe it or not. Dumpster diving, looking for anything outside and like fixing it up and then selling it. It's
Well, that's not
lucrative
what I
if you know
was
what you're
saying at
doing.
all, but that's also something people can do.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstand.
Yeah, like I know what he's saying. Like right now, I think they're charging, what is it, $80 a ton for trash. So depending on how much you have, that's how much you can charge, and then you could, depending on what they're selling, you could charge them, TVs or whatever the case may be. You can take the gold and silver out of it and then junk the rest.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
You're basically getting paid to get rid of the junk and you can do what you want with it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. To move the junker. I could even imagine doing it for some kind of like contracting companies, like where they run out of supplies on short notice and they need it, and they need to choose between either sending one of their employees off to do it or maybe giving you a call to run them something.
That would be a good. I know for a fact you can make a killing doing that. I know for a fact you would make, because I used to do contracting work, and that was the biggest waste of time, is not having the right equipment, or a drill bit would break and you'd have to waste half a day going to Lowe's and buying it and coming back to the client. So yeah, if you did something like that, you can make some serious money. But that's hyper local though. Like you wouldn't be able to travel more than like 30 miles.
True, but it is
Otherwise,
something that you could do theoretically anywhere as long as you have a truck. And all you'd have to do
Correct.
is
Yep.
sit out the nearest hardware store and hand out business cards to everyone who parks in the contractor spot.
It's not a bad idea.
Exactly.
As
Or
long as
you're not even worry about the contractor spot, just everybody. Because there are a lot of private people don't know how to get rid of stuff.
Correct.
And there's plenty of things that are illegal to just dump.
it's
Like,
illegal. And the other thing is, it's also, they don't have the specialized knowledge of knowing what can be, where the metals are, how to make and this is all the stuff that you can, profit off of, just like anything. It's once you know something, try to profit off of that information. But yeah, that's a great idea though, if you did something like that.
Yeah, no,
Especially,
that's something that I found if like with a lot of business stuff, I've heard that one of the best ways to start a business is to spend 10 years in an industry. But that's the thing, like just working in various construction fields for a while, like I start to notice all these little gaps and inefficiencies, and you can see where the niches are for business opportunities that way.
correct. And that's why I was always saying the opposite approach would be, and the easier approach for people that don't have the experience would be the, the prepper mentality, where you want to try to be the jack of all trades, and you learn these trades and different skill sets, and then try to monetize those skill sets. So like if your car breaks down, if you're a simple mechanic, you can at least get a couple things done, and you can sell out that skill. If you're, I know Hermit was talking about doing food stuff. Maybe he can learn how to can or vacuum seal or turn things into jam, and you can sell
Lots of
that.
regulations on food, though. Lots
No,
of
not yet.
regulations on food.
No, it's not. I buy Amish food all the time. There's no regulations. It just says the date that it was packaged, and that's it. If you buy it at a farmer's stand or something like that, there's no regulation on it. It's only when you go to a store that there's regulation. There's ways of getting around it. I mean, granted, you got to know your local laws, but I buy Amish food all the time, and there's no regulation. It just has a date on the top when it was packaged, and that's it.
Well, it's good for them. We don't have a big Amish community around here, so
Mm-hmm.
you've got to
You got to
have,
know your local market.
yeah.
Unfortunately, my market's global, and it's interesting right at the moment.
Yeah, I'm kind of
So
fortunate.
what is your currency of choice right now?
I want to go in crypto, but I just haven't had time. I guess at the moment, American money, and I guess after that, maybe South African rand at the moment. But that shit, it goes up and down all the time. But it's getting connected to China at the moment, and China's a lot more stable. Except you don't want to get any currency in Chinese. I forgot what it's called. Won or
Yuan,
something? Ewon?
Yuan.
Yeah, I don't trust that shit. They at any moment they can just take it away from you without issue. I mean, sure, the Americans can do the same shit, but the Chinese are well known. Recently, billions of wons were lost from a banking service, and the government was like, "Well, you should have known better," even though the people did. And now all these like billions of dollars worth of money is gone. So definitely not China. No.
Well, the other one is Russia, because Russia's going gold back. That's a good one to look into. Um, the other thing is like even little stuff like, do you know Peter Schiff? Last week, his bank and I think the Caymans got seized. So now his whole gold scheme of selling gold to people, that's all done now because he lost his. So I'm just saying, like, things are getting crazy. And one thing you got to realize is we're in a shift, like policy shift in America, where we're going from a liberal mindset to a conservative mindset. And anytime there's a shift, anytime there's chaos, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. So this is the time to figure out where the trends are going and taking advantage of those trends.
I
So
really do hope that happens, though. I know the
oh, it is.
pendulum is moving.
Then you can just see it now. Everything's going more conservative.
Thank God. I freaking hate my company's wokeness.
But my point is, anytime there's a transition period, which we have now, this is when it's a scary time when uncertainty, no one knows what the hell's going on. This is where you make the big opportunities that will be your money makers or your look in the future, like 30 years now. I did this opportunity and it made bank, and now I can retire. Those decisions are made now when there's chaos.
I would agree. I think of like the 2008. My stepdad made a killing with that.
Correct.
He knew it was gonna crash. He sold high. Then he had a shit ton of money. And then when it got really low in 2009, I think he bought a shit ton of real estate and then sold that for even higher profit somewhere around in like 2011. Made a killing.
It's happening again right now. I mean, we're hitting peak right now. If you're going to sell, this would be the time. After that, it's going to be a buyer's market, because with interest rates going up, it switches from a seller's market to a buyer's market. So just understand that everything goes in waves.
It's good to know because I don't know too much about American politics. Even though I'm American, I'm more interested in countries that my family has like business in.
Well, just remember, when interest rates go up, it means that there's going to be more and more, less and less buyers, because no one's going to, unless you need a house, you're not going to buy for an investment opportunity because it'd be expensive because interest rates are going up. So that means that since there's less buyers out there, the buyers have more power because there's less of them because of supply and demand. It means if there's less buyers, that means the price. If interest rates go up, prices have to fall. So interest rates are going up right now. So you're going to see a housing collapse. It's just
Oh, I see. Because in this economy, a lot of people don't have the upfront money for it, so they have to do those
it also is going to
mortgages.
cost a lot more. If you're going to buy easy numbers, if you're buying $100,000 house and interest rates before were 3%, you only needed to put down, 20% of $100,000, but you're going to pay 3% in as your mortgage rate. Now it's doubling that. So you're going to need even more capital, and you're going to have a better paying job to own the same amount of house. So to compensate for that, prices have to fall. So
Okay,
if
that
you're
makes sense.
if you're a buyer, this is the opportunity to buy. And if you're a seller, you better sell now, or you're going to be up shit's creek. Your house is going to crash value wise. It's like
All right.
stocks and bonds. It's the same thing. Stocks go up, bonds go down. Interest rates go up, prices go down. Interest rates go down, prices go up.
All right. Because I'm
And
used to like different economy. Like in South Africa, you just buy the property. There's like rarely mortgages, and if you do, you're usually gonna get ripped off.
well, in America, you kind of have to have a mortgage because the housing prices are too expensive. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, I've been trying to buy a house lately, and I'm just confused. I'm just like, I think I
because
need to wait. At least my instincts were right on that part.
I'd say wait.
Definitely wait.
Yeah, my
Well,
bank asked for the most ridiculous stuff. They asked me for 5 years of proof that my contract work will still be in business, and they
Yeah,
wanted a direct contact from them. I'm like, that's the most insane batshit. You want me to talk to my client, my vendor, to tell them they're going to be in business for 5 years and we're going to be contracted together for 5 years? Excuse me?
well, you can blame daddy government for that because mortgage people have to have stricter and stricter standards because of 2008. And it wasn't even their fault. It was Obama's fault for that whole thing. But I don't think you want to have a real estate discussion right now. But yeah, Obama is the one that brought us into that mess.
How lovely.
It was all his
Thanks,
fault.
thanks, Obama.
Yeah, but
actually, it was
I mean,
that homosexual senator, and then another guy named Dodd Frank.
yeah. Well, that doesn't
Yeah,
exist
Frank.
anymore now.
And then, but they were, they were the big time friends of Obama, but especially Frank.
Oh yeah, he was a piece of shit. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah.
Great. Now I have more reason to hate Obama. Originally, I hated him because I had to pay insurance tax because I didn't have insurance. And now this shit, no, thank Obama.
Well, in a nutshell, he forced people that couldn't get loans to get loans. So the banks had to be creative with their money, and because they couldn't say no to
Anyways,
people.
I'm gonna catch you guys later. We're not talking about anything I know about.
Okay, unless you want to talk about something else, that's
Nah,
fine.
it's 11 o'clock here, and
Okay. Well, it's nice talking to you.
I'm still getting over some shit. So
Okay.
nice talking to you guys too.
Well, thanks for
Thank you
dropping
too,
in,
Blood, for
Brandon.
the help.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Mhm. Oh, thanks for all the information. I got a lot of free time, believe it or not, for today. Tomorrow I have like a shit ton of stuff to do, but that's like late at night for me.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm scheduled to go for another hour or so. So, like, if there's something else you guys want to get into, or we can start winding her down.
I'm
Actually, I haven't got into detail about what career path you want to do for remote work in IT and programming.
All right. Sounds like a good path to get down. Let's go.
Well, first, what about Green Day?
What's up?
No, you have anything first? I'd rather you go first because
Oh, I'm not in
you're on
IT.
a roll. No,
I'm
no,
not.
not IT. In what you specialize in. Because I'm also interested, by the way. That's another reason why I'm here, and I've been quiet because I want to hear all this stuff. It's useful for me.
I mostly just do. I'm in finance, so I just do like 401k plans and stuff like that. But I mean, this isn't really the market to do a lot of that kind of stuff. You could take it if you have the extra funds. this would be the time to invest. But if you don't have the funds, that's the problem. So like, just like anything, like if you're going to take advantage of a situation, you got to put yourself into the means to afford that situation. So get out of debt, live a minimalist lifestyle until you can pay off what you have right now before you can access or even have the ability to take advantage of any situations that come up in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
I've been living
Also,
that lifestyle for years.
just 2 seconds. Very generous super chat to my PayPal from Mr. Pliskin. Snake. Thank you very much, man. I seriously, Pliskin's got to be fucking loaded, man. He's generous with so many of the Warband members. So thank you.
He's a good cat.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I can step in now and start talking about IT and programming, especially how to start it, because it's very difficult to start, because if you don't have structure, you have a very high chance to fail. And I like to be upfront with everybody when it comes to what the industry is, what is to be expected, and what is the fail rate for beginners. And that's very important to talk about so you can plan correctly and coordinate. Let me give some statistics here when it comes to university, colleges, and especially boot camps. But boot camps tend to keep it hidden, but I know what the percentage is. And that I can disclose because there's no disclosed agreement about that. So first is first. When it comes to any introduction to programming, this is the following. Let's say we have 100 students in, and less than 2 weeks before the dropout date, 50% of them will drop out. It is very massive. And out of the 50 that are left, only 50% of them will even pass the class. It's usually less than 50%. So let's just say 20 of them. So if you look at a reality, you're looking at like maybe a 75% you will fail. And this is my advice to all of you. If you enjoyed it, I know that sounds weird, you enjoy the programming and you failed, try again. Now, if you program and you didn't like it and you pass or fail, maybe take something else to see if you really don't like it. Because once you get into programming, you're pretty much stuck in there for a while. And it's for all programs, Java, C++, C, C Sharp, Go. Any language program they have for introduction level, 50% are going to drop out in the first 2 weeks. And then after that is going to be another 50% that's going to unfortunately not even pass. And it's very similar to the boot camp styles, but boot camps tend to have a lower rate in reality because a lot of times boot camps have an incentive to make sure the students pass. So they will curve the grades. They will do anything they can to make them look more credible. So in reality, you got to be careful with even boot camps because even though the statistics should be the same, they kind of forcefully, artificially pump it up, even though I know it's not supposed to be like that. And you may feel like, one, you know what you're doing, and then when you get to the job, you don't. And it happens a lot. So I want to clarify that very quickly.
Solid advice, and these are paid for stuff. So if you were to take the cheaper options, like, would it even be possible to break into the industry entirely for free? Like, say you just went on YouTube, looked up a bunch of courses that say they're certified, or cheaply, and you went and you got some Udemy courses. Would it be possible to build a programming portfolio of some kind and get in that way?
You're looking at one. Yes. Believe it or not, a lot of boot camps are for free. A lot. I can't tell the one that I work for, but you can just Google free boot camps. Just make sure it's legit because there's scammers out there. You have to make sure you do your research to make sure they're legit and they offer for free. Now, the question is, why do they offer for free? Well, most of these boot camps that are nonprofit get paid by either universities, companies, governments with these grants, and they use these grants to get employees. And now I say that because I had one major company, can't say who it is. They basically gave the money to these nonprofit organizations to pretty much get cheap labor force and a tax write-off. So take advantage of that, because any moment these big companies can take out this funding, and it's pretty much like 80% of funding from most of these boot camps. So for example, let's say, I don't know, Steam, Amazon, Google, Verizon, any of these type of companies are paying literally millions of dollars in grants for these boot camps to produce employees for them. And that's where the so-called guarantee employment after the boot camp comes from, because you get hired by the company that paid for that type of structure. Kind of interesting. And I want to say that sounds illegal, but it pretty much benefits a lot of people.
Oh,
It doesn't.
I mean, it doesn't really sound that bad. It would be like a decent sized trade corporation, like paying for a trade school to like train a whole bunch of people from scratch, and in exchange they get first dibs.
Yeah, that's how I first thought about it until I started looking at the pretty much the advertisement. I think maybe I'm more against the advertisement where they say the guarantee. Here is a problem with that so-called guarantee. It's not. I know I
Well,
said it the
nothing's a
whole
guarantee.
time, but that's how the marketing team works. They say it's guaranteed. No, it ain't.
To me, it sounds like indentured servitude.
Exactly.
Well,
And usually a lot of them have contracts where you have to work for them for a few years.
that's what I'm saying. That's indentured servitude.
Yep. So that's a part where I don't like, but you don't have to take the job. You can just do something else, which is what I did. When I passed my boot camp, ironically, I became a COVID investigator. How odd. That was remote. It was a nice job. I literally automated my whole work. Never caught me. And then eventually I worked for the I guess it's a nonprofit organization, and then I started working with universities and colleges. So that's how I can recommend if you want a structure that is given to you by a organization. That is one method, and that's the method I recommend, but it does cost something that a lot of people don't mention, and that's time. Do you have the time to spend with these free options? They're not going to be better than the paid ones. So there's going to be some, scuff situations. They're not going to have the best paying professors, and maybe the services are not that great. But yet again, it's free if you get accepted.
Well, business is going that way too, because they're sick of the colleges screwing them over with teaching BS classes. So what's happening is in the business world is people are we'll hire you. You're gonna have to work for 4 or 5 years. We'll mold you into the employee that we want you to be. In exchange, you're gonna have to work with us for 5 years, and that's basically the model of the way business is going to go in the next. Well, at least that's what I see in the next.
Oh, it is
years.
in IT for sure. That's why I said if you're young, go to Amazon, Microsoft, because they're doing exactly what you said. They want young bucks so they can mold them into their principles and make sure they stay in their property, because literally they have housing for them. They pay for everything, and they make sure you're comfortable and you don't want to leave them ever.
Well, that's the point. They're going to invest in you. They're going to demand investment back.
Yep. And I already had a student that didn't take my warning when he got hired with Amazon. And the first year he was okay. The second year he wasn't, because he wanted to have a family, and they had a policy. No, you live in our housing. You cannot have children here. And on top of that, he couldn't move from that location because he had to be always on call near the business.
Well, the reason why they do that is because once you get a family, your priorities change. I mean, it's symbolic, but that's the nature of the beast. And
I assume that was it. Now, I'm glad to get confirmation on that.
Well, the thing is, you're saving 4 years of college. So what's the difference? If you're going to a career and they're going to pay you 4 years of college worth of education for free, that's a pretty good deal, even if you have to suck it up for 4 years.
That's true. Yeah, if you're young, I say it's worth it.
Because at that point, it's like, would you rather be forced to work at a company for 4 years, or forced to work for whoever the heck you can to pay off your debts for like a decade plus?
I would say option A, 100%, because that's what the military does too. If you want a free education, you're gonna have to serve military for 5 years. It's
Oh
the
yeah,
same.
yeah. I
It's
had
the same
students
premise.
that get education for free if they were a vet. I remember that, all of it for free.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's the whole point. You're gonna have to give up your time, aka indentured servitude, for 5 years to work for these companies. And to be honest with you, if they're gonna get you the skill set and having something on your resume, I would take that deal right now compared to $200,000 worth of debt.
I agree, with one exception to the rule. Apple won't. If you leave Apple, they force you to put yourself as a clerk employee. So, for example, let's say you work for Apple as a senior engineer for 10 years. If you decide to leave Apple, when you have to get a referral checkup or anything, that Apple will for sure tell them, oh, he's just a clerk.
Well, you can get that around that real quick. You can put your under your, you might say clerk, but you can say the projects that you were a part of and what you actually did in like 3 or 4 bullet points, and it doesn't matter. Like
Oh,
if it was
okay.
me,
I was concerned with students because I was like, some of these people will call because programming is not cheap. They call a lot of these referrals and stuff that I'm aware of.
so what you do is, so even it'll say Apple clerk, and then your bullet points would be project project whatever. I I designed a system, designed, monitored, evaluated, um, and project managed a system where we did X, Y, and Z. You just use all those buzzwords, and you just list all the projects that you do. So even if they said, "Oh, you're just a clerk," well, This is what we actually did, and HR people will read between the lines. They'll say,
Well,
"Oh, that's
well,
definitely
maybe
a
not the HR people, but
no."
the
But I'm saying the
program
people that
heads.
want you, like HR people, might not read between the lines, but the project manager, that person that's hiring you, they're going to look at it and go, "Okay, he
That's
was this,
true.
but he has the experience of a because you're in that field. They're going to know, okay, this guy has definitely the experience of a programmer too, not a junior programmer." You know what I mean? Like you can list your accomplishments, and that's how I would on a resume, circumvent that. You can tell because you can have like up to 3 or 4 bullet points per job that you do, that you can prove what you did as your big projects at that job, and or you can just at the back of your resume attach all the projects that you did, and they'll know right away if you're an entry level, senior programmer too, or like an elite programmer, depending on your roles and responsibilities. So you might
That,
be a
that's
you might be
true.
you
I'm
might be
just
an Apple
thinking,
clerk. You might be an Apple clerk, but if you ran a if you put down, I ran $100 million project on this game, they're going to know that you're an elite programmer, even though your title was Apple clerk. Like these
that's
people
my
aren't stupid.
concern. My concern is the ATS system because most of these jobs you apply online.
Yeah, well, you can include that in your resume bullet points, like ran a $100 million project and was a project manager of this game. They'll go, okay, this person was a you know project analyst, I mean, or was a programmer, a senior programmer. Or you can say, I did the loot boxes on this game and did the code. Okay, maybe you're a programmer too, and maybe a junior programmer would be like assisted with data testing. That would be like a junior programmer. Do you know what I mean? Like, so whatever bullet points you say that you did as your job accomplishments, they can read between the lines and say, okay, this person has this much experience.
Okay, I see what you mean. It's still a hassle.
Oh yeah, but
Um,
that you should always do that on your resume. Is list your job um, accomplishments on each one. That way, even if it says I'm just an analyst, well, maybe I was an analyst, but I had the responsibility of a supervisor. Well,
yeah, you tell a story. Basically, a story that says what you accomplish in like a third person, as I like to call it.
Yes, but by doing that, you're proving that you're not your equals. So it makes you look better than a competitor person, and you're showing them that what your experience is. And I'm also assuming, for as a programmer, you probably have to come with a portfolio of what I know and what I've done, kind of thing, kind of like an arch.
Correct. Yeah, you have to have a lot. The only downside to having those portfolios is if the company doesn't care about them, as in like they don't even look at it. A good example will be Amazon, and the reason why is because they have their own structure. You get like what, 5 interviews, I think. Yeah, you have like
Well,
5 interviews. So it depends. But for most companies, yeah, you show your portfolio.
well, then why then screw Amazon then. Work for somebody else. There's billions of other companies. That's how I would look at it. If Amazon wants to be the oddball and be hard to work with, maybe they're not the right fit for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just very concerned because when I heard that from Apple, I was like, they're just being a dick. And I hate working for companies that are like that. But yet again, to be honest, most companies have that. They get really salty when you leave a company,
Well,
especially in programming.
I'm saying that's what I was trying to tell you. If by putting your job bullet points in, you're telling the next person who what your skill set is without saying your skill set. Like, people will read between the lines, and that's what I'm saying. If they're gonna screw you and give you the same title, fine, screw them. But my job requirements are going to show that I'm a programmer 2 and not a programmer 1, and then you can demand a higher raise that way. It's like, well, you want me to do an entry level job. Well, I have the experience of someone 2 levels up. You're gonna have to pay me 2 levels up to do that job, or I'm not gonna work for you. And you can justify it. You're like, oh, you're only gonna give me $50,000 for that job. Well, I'm demanding 125, so I'll start at 100, but not a cent less, and this is why. And then you it's basically proving your experience without saying anything. So you have more grounds to demand a higher salary.
All right, that's good for me to teach my students because
Yeah.
basically what you said is something I would do, but in a different way. Um, because I'm always concerned with my students. I'm always thinking about them, how I can help them get a job because I
Yeah.
wouldn't want a beginner student working for Apple not knowing any of this. And then when they leave, they're like, "What did I do?" When I try going to a job, they told me with a referral that I was just a clerk. That's the part where I want them to be aware so they can tell the person they're trying to get hired, saying, "Hey, just to be advised, all of Apple employees are referred as clerks, no matter what. But this is my job responsibility." Basically, that's what they should do.
Yes. And and that's what I have on my resume. Like, when I was in high school, I mean, I don't have this on my resume now, but when I was in high school, I had, worked as um a stalker. But I said I packaged, I did frozen, I did all the different departments. So they showed that I didn't just work at one position. I worked the whole freaking store. So that's the kind of stuff. You might be a general stocker. Well, I didn't just do general. I did frozen dairy. I did all these different departments. I even did cashiering. So, like, you can show them that you're a well-rounded person depending on how you list your bullet points. So yeah, the bullet points are very key. That's how you get
Got it.
around it.
And then I want to answer some questions I noticed in chat. And one of them is talking about the ATS system, basically. There is a way to fix that. For example, I know this sounds weird, but a lot of times when you're making your resumes, make sure that there is no format. It's all the same font if possible, and you have it very well structured. And you do a very specific structure because the ATS system will get confused the second you put a table in it. And if you always wonder why you never got a response, it could be that the fact that the machine kicked you out before anything else. And in IT, pretty much 90 to 95% of all applicants literally go to the ATS dark hole, or I like to call it the bin.
Well, that's every job nowadays, and you got a special. That's why it's so important that I would honestly tell your people to either take a class on resume building or actually have a professional build your resume. It might
With a
cost you.
track record. Because I have actually seen some of them because in my job, we actually hire them. Some of them know what they're talking about. Some have no damn clue. There's a lot of scammers in that, so be careful with that.
Oh, I understand that you're going to get scammers everywhere, but what I'm saying is, if you can vet them and that they have a good track record, at least you can create a list of trusted people that you would recommend. Because it sounds like if it was, I mean, I'm not saying I do your job, but if it was up to me, I would be looking at having it just a week of my lecture talking about resume building and what to put on my resume, how it should look like, what are the industry standards, what are they looking for. This is all very important information for new employees.
Actually, I do that. I do change the curriculum. They want me to do something differently. I make sure once a week, because it's 12-week program, I teach them how to do resumes and actually how to do interviews, because a lot of them have no
Yes.
clue how to look at a camera. That may sound so minor, but it's those little differences that makes a huge deal, especially if you want to do remote work. If I'm
Oh
talking
yeah.
to you and you're looking at the other side of the freaking room, I'm gonna instantly think you can't do remote work. And
Yep.
trust me, if you never done remote work, you're gonna be in an uphill battle trying to get it in the first place. But there
Yeah.
are ways to get it though.
Yeah, and even when you become higher in your job, it's always good to have a refresher and take those interviewing classes, because I mean, you never know. What you thought the industry wanted 5 years ago could be completely different now. So
Oh, it is all the time. Matter of fact, in my industry, it's every 1 year. Every year it completely changes, and I have to always try to be on track on it for my students, and it's a pain in the butt. Especially when these stupid CEOs have no idea what the hell programming is. They're like, oh, crypto, we need that in our program. Crypto's not a program. I don't care, get it. That's my lifestyle with
well,
any of these fuckers.
to be honest with you, do you really want to work for a company that doesn't even understand crypto?
Yes, because they're paying me a shit ton of money and it's their problem.
It is, but it'll eventually become your problem when the company makes bad decisions and doesn't exist
I
anymore.
dip. Like, look, this is the reality of my industry. We jump hop every year or two. You
Yeah,
do
there's
not
no,
stay in the same company. No. If they pay you a shit ton of money, you take all you can. If they're not going to give you any more, you want more, move to another one. The only reason why we will ever stay in a job is because it's easy and or flexible. Me, I'm very lucky. I got both. It's easy and flexible. So I can do side gigs. And I literally have 2 contracts that I can work because both of them are flexible. But that's
yeah.
like a end game type of thing, though.
See, I'm in the opposite scenario. Mine, people stay in the same business for 25 years because it pays well and management's good and everything else. So, I mean, it all depends on what you value. If you value security or you value, job advancement. So, depends on what you value and everything else. I'm not saying either way is better or worse. Just depends on what you value.
Yeah, it's also the lifestyle as
Yep.
well. Which is
100%.
something I want the audience to be aware. If you're going to be a good programmer that gets paid a lot of money, you're going to be job hopping. There is no buts about it. And I'll be honest, I'm not a good programmer. Maybe it's my imposter syndrome, but I'm not a good programmer. But I get paid well because I pretend I know what I'm doing.
Well, as long as you
And
can
that's for
sell
any
it.
job, in my opinion, anyway. You just have the confidence in the interview, and they'll just hire you. Usually, that's my experience.
As long as you can do the job, most companies don't really care.
Oh yeah, I say it to my students all the time. Would the company rather pay this top talent but is an asshole, or this person who can just get the job barely done but has a good personality? Of course they're gonna hire the person with good personality. You don't get paid more to hire the asshole who knows everything.
It depends on what the company values. Like,
Oh no, I'm not talking about the company. I'm talking about the person hiring it, because most of the
Well-
hiring managers or human resource that I experience, they don't really usually care about the company, and they're like, I just want to ease your job. Why am I gonna
Well,
hire an
the
asshole?
thing is, the difference is my job is the opposite. They're going to hire the asshole that's going to get the bigger clients, and they don't care if the person's nice.
Is that
They
like
care about
marketing?
They care about the
Something
net
like that?
results. No, I work in finance.
Finance. So that's okay. So in your industry, which is good for me to know, is they just want the top talent. Doesn't matter if they're asshole. But in my industry, it's the opposite. We want to just have a person who knows how to work together, because it makes sense. Because I think in finance, is it more of a team player game or individual?
Depends on your role. Like, if you're in operations, it's team based. If it's sales, it's I'm not in sales. I refuse to go in. That's cutthroat. But in my position, it's team based. So they just want to make sure you're a good team player and you get the job done. If you're not a team player, you're probably not going to do well. But
And the,
if you're in sales, being a team player is going to hurt you. You want to be cutthroat. So it all depends on the position and what you're doing.
let's
That's why
say a team member failed on something. How bad is it?
depending on how many times have they done it, how much did it cost them?
Just one time, and how much would it cost them? Just one mistake.
If it's minor, I mean, it depends on how many assets under management the company has. If you're dealing with $1 trillion AUM, which is assets under management, and you make a $1,000 mistake, that's not a big deal. You have $100 million under asset under management, and you make $1 million mistake, your asset's done.
Oh,
Doesn't
so
matter.
it's the same thing in programming. Basically, it's a team player where if one person drops a ball, everyone's on deck and fucked. Which
Yeah,
is
well,
also known as Captain Crunch as well.
yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing with that. It's all about percentages. Like, if it's a little mistake, or it's not too bad. If it's a big mistake, yeah, there's gonna be issues.
All right. Well,
Just
then I
again,
understand a lot better, because in IT and programming, we have to be extreme team players. You know that stereotype where programmers are always alone and they don't work with others and they're individuals. That's not going to happen in most of these companies. You have to work together and constantly communicate, because if you don't, that product ain't coming right. I'm just saying, it ain't coming right.
well, that's the thing with most jobs. You need to figure out what kind of person you are. If you're an extroverted person and you're very cutthroat, maybe being in your job's not the right fit, or my job. If you are very introverted, but likes to work in a team environment, that's probably the best place for you. Do you know what I mean? So we really need to evaluate what kind of people or person. I'm sorry, what kind of personality you are, and that'll determine what kind of job you're going to prefer.
That's true. I look at myself. I'm actually an introvert,
Yeah.
and everyone's just shocked when I'm doing my class, and everyone's wondering, "Are you extrovert or introvert?" And I was like, "Introvert," and they don't believe me.
Well,
But hey, I just work for the job. I put up the face.
most IT people I've ever met are always pretty introverted. The salespeople seem to be extroverted, but
I see that as well. Whenever I had to talk to the sales team, they all talk. They say, "Hey, what are you doing in the weekend?" It just is like natural butter, and I'm just there like,
well,
I
that's
just
because
play games.
they need to be that way so they can smooth their clients to get sign the contract. So you got to know what kind of person you are, and that determines what kind of job you're going to like or you're going to prefer.
Okay, that's a lot of good information for me. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Because trust me, everything you said, I use for my students. That's literally my job. My job is to literally teach students to, one, get a programming or IT job and get them placement.
Well, if you're going to get in placement, you got to do mock interviews, and you got to do
Oh, I do
resume
that.
and the
I
resume
do that.
building.
Oh yeah, no, I do all that, and I actually had a separate team that actually specializes in it. But here's the problem, and this is an issue. None of them are IT or programmers. They're usually like salespeople or some manager, and it's not like the real industry where it's like a real techie person doing the mock interview. I'm
Well,
like literally the only one in the company at the moment.
the other thing you could do is you probably can contact Indeed directly and say what I'm running a IT course, and I'd like to have one of your representatives come in and talk about the nature of the industry and what the industry looks for a resume. They have all the analytics. You just probably
Yeah.
have to pay them
Oh, and
to
that
have a
company's
meeting.
not gonna pay it. That's the thing.
They
I can
might.
still. Oh no, trust me. After the budget cuts that I saw, I was like, nope. I'm lucky just to be even in their role play. But yet again, I get paid by the university, not the company. Maybe I can talk to the head of the university for that though.
But that's the
I
kind
can
of thing
ask that
I would
actually.
talk about. I would talk to Indeed and say, how much would it cost to have one of your IT HR professionals to come in and talk about what they're looking for in a resume? And if it changes every year, you can have them on a yearly basis come in and talk about, okay, this year we're looking for integrity, and next year it might be accountability or whatever the case may be, and then you can tell your resume with that in mind, and that can give your students an edge.
Okay. Let me write that down quickly. Okay.
Just a thought.
So, oh no, I'm gonna take that because here's the thing. It's my position is very weird. Uh, for that same company I work for the branch and then the tree trunk, like the main HQ. It's kind of weird the structure, and at the moment they're pretty much firing almost everyone in the American branch. Like 80% are gone due to this extreme budget cuts. But I do know the university I'm working for, they got a huge grant thanks to Biden. Ironically, Biden helped me out, but I'm pretty sure most people don't.
Yeah,
I'm
he
at least
screwed me.
aware of that. Oh yeah, no, I bet he screwed the finance for sure. Luckily for me, at the time, because of the Emergency Act, a lot of that money grant went to my company, and especially universities. And universities basically paid me that money. If that makes sense. So I benefit from it, but I know a lot of people did not benefit. But I will say this: when I finally made good money, and I said to myself, "I'm middle class," and then I look at inflation thanks to Biden, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm back to poor. Great." Goddamn inflation.
But yeah, especially like aggregate sites like Indeed and joboffers.com.
What about Glass Reflection? I think that's what they're called.
Salary.com and all those websites, they can give you an idea because they compile all this information, so they'll know the trends of data because they'll know what to look for in resumes because they have all that information. So it's just a matter of them going and saying, okay, we're going to filter resumes, look for the keywords that resumes that people got hired for, and then those keywords are what you're going to put on your resume. That's not a hard thing to do for those websites.
Oh, actually, we pay actually a website called JobScan for that.
Yeah, so you should be able to figure out what are the keywords to include on your resume, what they're looking for, and you can use that for your students to make them have a competitive advantage over the rest of the people because they'll know what these companies are looking for.
All right, so that's something I'm gonna put in my little side note here because I won't talk to them until September. But when September comes around, I'll discuss that with them.
And the other thing I'd recommend is if you're a direct hire for some of these larger companies that are looking for people, sometimes you can just ask them, like, we're creating all these employees for you. What are you looking for in an employee? Take that person out to lunch, or they might even send an HR person to you and say, yeah, this year we're looking for data management. That's what we're really pressing this year. We need a lot of more data management people, and then now you know what to specialize in if you want that career. If you don't work for Google, for example.
Actually, that I do know with the main trunk, as I call it, the main company. They do that with talking to Amazon. Matter of fact, no, I can't say it. Fuck. Let's just say what platform that we're running on. I'm a third vendor for them. Let's just say that. So yeah, I do know some of those statistics. They're looking for mostly data management because big data is becoming so unmanageable. And by the way, Google's lying when they say they don't emit CO2 or it's minimum. Bullshit. They're destroying all the waters and lakes and shit. It's horrifying. They're saying, oh, we have no CO2 emissions on our servers. Bullshit. You literally destroyed the whole fucking... Sorry, I'm getting pissed off.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's how if I was a teacher That's what I would be doing to help your students out, or at least recommending seminars that you can go to. Or
Oh, I do that all the time. Seminars for Google, Amazon, because they're the major competitors. Sometimes there's like some career fairs that do pretty good as well.
do you
Um,
guys do like lunch seminars where you
we
go in at
can because
you can
everything's remote.
doesn't
That's the downside with my company. Everything is remote.
you can still
Literally
do
everything.
you can still do you can still do an interview remote. You can have someone come in and then you just mute everybody else and then they ask questions, kind of like a ask and tell. And they could, like I used to do that when I was in business school all the time. We would have at lunchtime they would have like industry leaders come in and talk about their positions and what they're looking for, new hires. I mean, everything was opened up for questioning. Like you could ask them. They might have like they might have a guy that had business ethics, and he'd go in and tell him the mistakes that he did, what he learned from it, and then stuff like that. So you can get a different kind of insight. So, but you can do that through Zoom too. You can just, especially if you got a grant, you can ask them and say, hey, can we do like fireside chats or whatever, and have like industry leaders come in and talk about, programming or talk about different aspects of the business to be aware of that we're not talking about, and that's a huge benefit for the kids.
Well, I wouldn't call them kids; they're all adults. But yes.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, I want to say they're kids, but I'm not supposed to.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend. Trying to any way you can specialize yourself, different from any other organization, that allows you to charge a higher rate, which in sense means that you get paid at a higher rate because they can afford a higher salary for you, because you'll have a higher acceptance rate because you'll be specialized. And this is
Which is what I tell all my students. You have to specialize in programming.
Well, you got to
Period.
specialize in life. Life is all about specializing. But the thing is, if you specialize, a lot of people, when they specialize, they lose the big picture. So you might be great at doing, this little aspect of things. But if you lose the big picture and you don't generalize a little bit, you're not going to be able to grow. You're not going to be able to get new skills that you can now monetize or do whatever you need to. So just be very careful when you specialize. It kind of like
That's
puts
true.
you in a prison hole. They want you to specialize because if you specialize, it's harder for you to leave. The power goes to the business, not to you, because so you understand one little aspect. If they automate that process, you lose your job. If you're a jack of all trades, you can just transfer to another department. You have more power. You can demand a higher salary because you know more. So try to be the jack of all trades.
All right. Oh, gents.
Programming.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. We are at the last 25 minutes of the stream, so if you have any conclusions that you'd like to get to, now's a good time. We'll go for about another 15 to 20 minutes, and then we'll give closing thoughts and goodbyes. So just giving you guys an update that way.
Roger that. So let me just go back what I was saying, except I'm going to say exactly what's going on. If you're going to go with a boot camp for free, you're paying with time. If you want to do it completely for free, you need to decide what kind of program you want to do, what language you want. And here are the followings that I would recommend at this moment. JavaScript is hot. I really don't know why. I'm only going to assume it's because it's very easy to implement at the moment. Also, we have something that we can use now with it that makes it full stack. What is full stack? Just to make it simple, it just means it can do front end and back end. That's basically what it means, to simplify it. So JavaScript, super hot. Everyone's asking for it. And the fact that it can do backend now, thanks to the node, JS node. Don't worry, you're going to find out eventually if you're going to do JavaScript. It's really good. Now, after JavaScript, Python. Why Python? A lot of companies are looking for database management. And believe it or not, Python has a lot of integrations with a lot of these databases that have specific queries, making it pretty much the language of choice to automate things. So if you're going to do Python, I highly recommend you learn how to use Linux, which is another part of a conversation I saw in chat. What is Linux? Linux is just an operating system, but it is basically the de facto operating system you will do in programming and also in IT, especially IT if you're going to be doing networking. But I'm only here talking about programming. IT can be another time. So Python is very good. Another one that's pretty popular nowadays is Java, unfortunately. I want that thing to die, but it's going to be here for another 5 or 10 years. I don't recommend starting Java immediately. Java is a lot harder. I recommend JavaScript or Python first, and then moving to Java if you are interested. But that is something you can do. And what I mean by starting JavaScript or Python, I mean like 1 or 2 months of study. Go on YouTube, literally put anything you want there. I recommend Bosch. He's pretty good. And you can learn there for free, learning some of the basics, and then you can do Java if you want Java. But I recommend just either JavaScript or Python. They pay very, very well. And then after Java will be C++, just because there's so many legacy systems for it. And that's the end of my recommendation for where you want to start if you're looking for front end, back end, or full stack. And luckily, nowadays, almost all modern programs are full stack. They can work front and back, thanks to pretty much advancements in our technology. And also, if you're going to do anything in programming and you want to make a shit ton of money quickly, learn Linux and cloud computing. Even though I'm a programmer and I don't really need to know the cloud, pretty much it's going to be mandatory in the next few years. If you don't know the cloud, you're out of the competition. You need to know some basics of cloud computing. And I mean specifically cloud computing. Because a lot of these websites and backend servers are now going to be running, guess what? These major colloquial buildings, as we call them. In other words, big server farms. Because nowadays, if you want to make any successful business, you're going to be forced to use Amazon, Microsoft, or Google. And I think Rumble's a good example of the consequence of that. They got like yeeted off the platform because they pissed off their overlords. But unfortunately, that's the reason why. You think you can build a professional platform in less than a year on your own? The amount of infrastructure you have to build and capital is insane. You're forced to go with Amazon, Google, or Microsoft, unfortunately, because of that. It's just killing your business if you can't do it by those companies.
If I'm going to start with starting a side hustle, figure out what your passions are. Once you figure out what your passions are, figure out a way to monetize your passions, and then go through there. Don't expect to make a lot of money right away. Take your money and reinvest it the best you can into your business. Keep at it. Don't get rid of your main job until you can make more money with your side hustle for at least 6 months. Then you can quit your normal job. Make sure you protect yourself with LLCs and you pay your taxes. And also make sure that if you're doing a side hustle, make sure it's doing something that you like, because this is going to be what you're going to be doing in your free time. So make sure you love what you do.
And I'm going to reply to some things I see in chat. Cool Chicken. Azure is Microsoft. Yes, that's a specific name that we do for that. It's Azure, but I call it Microsoft because it's easy for most people to know what that's referring to. And for Cosmic Dash, referring to that, yes, that's what I will recommend, JavaScript or Python. And then after that, C++ and Java. The downside to the method I said, because there is a downside, you're going to struggle with pointers. You're going to struggle with maybe management of certain things. Basically, when programming, we have like more advanced stuff, but JavaScript and Python manages that for you, which makes it very, very beginner friendly. But be advised, once you advance to C++ or Java, you're going to have to handle those specific management stuff that the other software doesn't do. So that's very good to refer to. And then what's one thing I want to say? Oh yeah, don't be shy to just tell someone honestly in interviews. Like I say this to my students all the time. The second you get a hang of programming, even though it's very basic, just apply for jobs. Even if you know you're not going to get them. And this is the major reason why. If you've been studying for like, and this happens to my students all the time, for a year or two, and then you still think you're not like able to get the job, and all of a sudden one day it's like, oh no, I know enough. You have no skill set in the interview process or what the market is. So you might as well get at least a push, at least the basics of it, and start applying for any entry-level position and try to understand what kind of keywords are going to work on your resume, what they're looking for in the interview, how did the interview go? Did these interview questions matter? Like, for example, a lot of times in our programming field, you're going to get a test. Sometimes the test is live with the person, or it's going to be offline, meaning you're going to do it on your own expense and you have a deadline. And here's the thing that really sucks. A lot of times, if you're a junior, they're going to give you a test that's for a senior. Why would they give you this test? They want to see if you crack under the pressure. The answer to it is do the most you can and submit it with the deadline. And you may just get the job, especially if you get at least one of them right. They're not looking at if you can get it done 100%. They're looking if you can even handle the pressure in the first place. So that's why I highly recommend, if you have a basics of these programmings that you have learned, these languages, start applying for jobs. Even though your morale is going to hit hard when you know you're not going to get the job, hey, you can get lucky. I had a student get lucky one time. It's going to give you the skill set that you need for the next interview and then the next. And every time you do these interview questions that they give you, you get better and better, and you know your craft better. Matter of fact, think of it. You're getting professional help if you get the right person. You can literally ask them in the interview, and they like this. I know this because I've done these before. Hey, this one over here, I didn't know how to find this float or this pointer, or I didn't know how to get the optimized algorithm based on the time management involved. They will probably answer it for you. So you get pretty much a free mentor for that few minutes that you get with the interviewer. And most of them tend to be nice. So take advantage of that. And heck, I even had some students tell me they even recommended them what they should learn if they want to be interested in this job. So don't be shy applying. And that's the biggest factor here. I see so many of my students never applying for jobs. I had one student, he didn't apply for 6 months after my program. I had to catch that person and tell them, you're applying for the jobs. And he got a job a month later. So don't be shy the second you know some basic languages. Just do it. You don't know until you do it. And that's pretty much it for me on my side for programming. I do have other stuff that I can talk about, but that could be a future stream if it's IT, networking, and I guess the cloud, because I'm literally making a program for my company on the cloud. So I'm going to have a lot of insight on that in the next couple of months.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely host like more streams along these jobs, especially like if I can find more guests or we can find more specific topics to cover, because this is a very valuable discussion, I think, and one stream is not going to be enough for it.
I agree. I got a lot of knowledge from everyone who came in. I think I benefited a lot from it.
It was a good chat.
All right. I guess we can start slowing it down now. Any questions for us? Especially if you have any questions that are specific to us?
Yeah, I'm just fiddling around with some tech stuff in the background here. So, yeah, any questions from chat or Bandit? If you have any sort of conclusions or summaries that you want to give out to chat.
I guess the only thing is the best day to start doing this was yesterday. So if you're gonna do this, start it today, start it tomorrow. Money doesn't grow on a tree. You're gonna have to start it now, and don't be don't be discouraged if your first couple tries you fail and you flop on your face. You learn a lot more with failure than you learn with success. So just take what you learn and apply it to the next thing you're gonna do.
I take that to heart. I'm an example that I failed way more than I succeed. And trust me, it's worth it. I think there's a famous saying, Kobe something. No one cares about the 1,000 times he failed to shoot. Sorry, I forgot the quote, but I like that quote.
You
Should
miss
look it up again.
1,000. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Personally,
Okay.
Personally, I'm more a fan of this one from Assassination Classroom. The difference between the student and the master is that the master has failed more times than the student has tried.
Oh, I'm gonna take that one.
I also like this one. It takes 10,000 hours to master something.
Malcolm Gladwell, right?
Yeah, I think that's Gladwell. But that applies to everything. So just understand that.
I still suck in CS:GO, and I got like 10,000 hours. Maybe not always, but mostly.
You won't know until you try.
No, I did. I got 10,000. I just suck at first shooter games. That's just me. I just suck. I can't focus.
It's all good.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I can't figure out redirections, so sorry to Manic, but I am going to spam his premiere video in the chat. So everyone, if you're not subscribed to Manic the Manic Mechanic, please do. Go get some notifications for this premiere and check it out, because he works hard on the content. So spamming a ton of links in the chat.
Done.
No questions about Linux? Because I saw that in chat a while ago. I'm shocked because that's also very lucrative.
I think that it would be worthwhile to do like an IT tech stream. Like, since we've got like clearly a bunch of people who are interested in the field and have some specialties. So
Yeah, we can do that. It has to be hopefully before September, because I'm fully committed for this few months, but it's like it's part-time. But the second I hit September, I got literally 2 contracts. In other words, 2 jobs at the same time.
yeah. Well, no, we can definitely have this within the next 2 weeks, I'd say. I don't know how frequently I'll get to live stream this, but I can probably pull off like maybe 1 or 2 streams a week. So within the next 2 weeks, we'll have a tech stream.
All right, sounds good. And I know enough in the IT industry to give tips on that.
Sounds
I know
good.
that was one person said CompTIA A+ is not good. I'm like, it is. Trust me. Everything else sucks. That I will give you. But the CompTIA A, trust me, that's A+. That's worth your time. And you can do it for free, by the way, with Professor Messer, for those who are still interested, for free.
All right. Well, thank you very much to OK Lord and Bandit. I really appreciate you coming on the stream and talking for the past like 4 hours. Honestly, probably the easiest stream I've ever done, because I basically just sit back and listen to you guys.
Damn, it's been 4 hours? I didn't even realize it. Yeah, I gotta head out. But hey, thanks for letting me talk. I always like helping individuals if I can.
Yeah, and thanks to Brandon Trueblood and Evil Hermit for coming on as well. They're not here now, but definitely appreciate them spending some time to come on to the stream. And thank you, of course, to everyone in chat, especially those of you who stuck around for most of this. Really appreciate all of this engagement, all the talking in the chat. You guys are MVPs. So, yeah, we'll just switch out to a little sound sequence. And thank you once again. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Warband.
Peace. Puniti.
Puniti.
Have a good one, guys.